Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter. Obviously, me and Maui are joined by a guest, as is tradition. And this one is going to be Zews, former coach of Team Liquid, SK Gaming, Luminosity Gaming, Team Liquid again, Fluxor. He's been around the block. Couple of majors. Couple of them bad boys in the old, back pocket. Couple of majors. Second best team in the world at one point in time behind Astralis. Anyone who goes, they lost all the time. You know it was Astralis, right? I don't know if you were watching. They were pretty good. Like they were sort of cooking the whole scene. I don't know if you guys remember that.
They will never know. They will never know what that like.
Yes. Put it this way, one time, I'll tell a very quick anecdote. One time, this is how you know Zews was living the game back then. One time when Astralis had, I don't know, like 4 finals in a row they'd won over Team Liquid, Zews once said to me when we were just like chilling out, he just goes, can you actually think of any historical precedent when a team was like stuck behind one team like this and then they like did something that got them over the hump, like they got past them? And I had to actually tell him, unfortunately, no. That's how you know this team probably is the GOAT. Like, I actually thought of all the history. Look, there's teams that claimed second and there's teams that didn't win. But like, I was like, but I've never seen one where it's like they beat everyone else. Because people do forget that, bro. You cook in Na'Vi, FaZe Clan, Nico, they can just get the fuck out the server. By the way, Fallen in MIBR, if you don't know back then, they were missing Zeus, mate. He had a crazy record. He was running up numbers on them. The problem is, Astralis.
Dude, I always had an amazing record against.
Yeah.
God, but damn Astralis. Yeah. Dude, I don't know if we've ever told this. We actually at one point, swear to God, before the major semifinals, we tried holy water backstage on each other. That's how bad.
Just to exercise the shit. Okay.
Not me. Out of nowhere, Taco just come on. Guys, come here. Is like, come on, we're doing this. We're getting out of here. Not that time again.
Listen, you got to try everything at that point. Voodoo dolls, everything. Just get everything going, man. Get a hex going on them.
They're trying anything.
Exactly.
But it didn't work. We got one map, I think.
I love it. Okay. Right.
Unfortunately, that just shows that God did look upon Astralis.
No, unfortunately, exactly. Yes, exactly. He was like, listen, this is my will, Zeus. Now get out the way.
Yes.
They are supposed to win the championship. Exactly. And then he was like, look, if any of them get too big and arrogant because they win, I'll curse them in a Saudi team in about 5 years. Oh, did I just say that out loud? Shit, well, we started anyway. So Zeus, what is your, whatever. Zeus, what is your good point? What are you bringing today?
All right. So for my good point, I thought of bringing something a little bit longer perspective. So I had a big break right after EG and after I came back during the pandemic, and CS changed drastically during the times. I remember online CS at the time, but afterwards, now it really does remind me of professional sports in the sense of how you have a playbook, right? It's before you had different playstyle, different schools of Counter-Strike, but everyone was bringing something new and trying to adapt to a playstyle, maybe an Astralis default with a cheese utility. Nowadays, most of the players already have on a base level, not only a mechanical skill set that is incredibly high to play with, they already come with like 16, 17, 18 years old with the repertoire of plays and understanding of not necessarily the macro play of an entire system like an IGL would do, but they understand what's coming, the timings, when they should be going, how to team play. And to me, that's made it incredibly competitive all the way up to when you get to the stage. So I think that this year and for at least near future, we're going to have a lot more variety of teams making those playoffs, making those stage games, because that's a different kind of Counter-Strike. So my good point is just simply how everyone has evolved, and that goes from players to coaches. We have the first generation of true world champion coaches now, right? We have Exist, we have Blade doing his thing. You have so many people that are trying to help out and are just joining in. Neo, Taz. Everyone likes to joke on Taz. I talked to him a lot while I was on Liquid. He's doing the thing. He feels like Big Dad there. He's giving them the way, the mentality to win. Right? So in a good sense, I'm really happy that the base competitive level of the scene has evolved so fast. We joke that CS years are like dog years, and it really is. 1-2 years away, you see how fast things go.
I like it because, I mean, I don't know, this is a needless dig at a narrative from years ago, but I'd say Richard's idea that like, oh, the state of CS is not great right now or whatever. I was like, dude, I think the floor of some of these teams is insanely high. Like, I think the knowledge that some of these people have in terms of like strategies and the way that they want to play, and like in terms of micro plays and even just mechanical skill, like you said, it's at such a high baseline for so many teams that's why you'll see these upsets for you know, like you'll see all these teams kind of pop out of nowhere, like this heroic lineup that they're running right now with the Sangol core and everything. Like, dude, these guys, even though they choked at the RMR, in terms of how good they were online, they obviously were good enough for quite some time to hang with some of the bigger dogs. It's just that, like you said, it's like when you get to the stage, that's when you start to see, okay, who's really like drilled this into their soul at this point, that they are able to hold their nerve in these tense situations. And that's kind of the difference maker at the end of these tournaments, more so than just like, oh, do they have the necessary Rolodex of strategies or anything like that? It's like, yes, like everybody has that. Like so many people have like 7 different finishers on every map. They have like 6 different defaults that they're starting with. They have like the protocols and rotations and communication for teams that have been playing for a handful of months is probably really damn good at this point. So I like it because it just kind of reaffirms that the level of CS we're watching right now is at an incredibly high level. You rarely see games nowadays where you're just like, wow, that team just had a horrible game plan and they never adapted. Okay, next one. You know, like that just doesn't happen in top 20 versus top 20 team Counter-Strike that much anymore.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, I think that.
Go on, keep going. No, keep going.
No, it's just that. Like, I have made even a list here, like of the players who I'd considered new blood, right? Like, if we were to be comparing, but it's like, of course, you have to put in Dunk, but m0NESY, Magic, Zontix, siuhy, Jimpat, MZO, HevGod, Snow, Big Ozera, Insani, Skulls, all the Navi players that already are world champions in this level. Like, all of these, if we think, come from 3 years now. And yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that, Rich, but it's exactly that. Like, I think that you will see why Nico is Nico. Simple always showed why he was there, because he not only does it, he does it under pressure, right? It's the RMR qualifiers, getting to the majors, getting that sticker money. When those intense rounds come, and specifically when there's crowds, like even a guy like Simple, I mentioned in the Red Bull thing, but yelling at the crowd in Brazil, it's like, even then, it's like maybe 12 years career, he's getting a new experience there, like learning how to deal with the crowd. Astralis was a master. When I was losing to them on stage, half of them is because they knew to throw the HE at the right time to get sound and things like that. Right. That's a different kind of Counter-Strike. Sure. That comes with time, right? But when you look at the baseline for these players, we are competing at a really high, like, for a player who's trying to make it pro nowadays compared to when I made it pro, the incentives are different, right? We didn't have anything. That's why it was glorious at the time. But for someone trying to make it out, I'd make it very much comparable to trying to join a professional football, like the real football, not the American one, you know? Like, it's really fucking hard. And that's what CS is becoming. CS is the most organic sport, and everyone loves kind of playing it. And because of it, the natural competition and the move and all these things, it's beautiful to see. It really is.
Here's what I love about this is I actually agree, but I think it's actually in a positive sense, because what's funny is at the same time as you have all this stuff, like you have all the future IGLs who look like they're going to be the next wave and dominate for the next 5-6 years. You have all these coaches coming into the career. All the veterans, though, who are the best, still get to stick around, though. Blade was here from, like, the joke is Blade was here before almost everyone except me was ever in Counter-Strike. He was here forever, like, but he hasn't become outmoded. He's become the professor. He just knows more than everyone. You look at people like, everyone told me the whole time, you gotta have a fragging IGL. No, Thorin, this year, fragging IGL. Well, but next, fragging IGL. It's like the fucking major final was Chopper versus Carrigan. It was Chopper versus Carrigan. At this point, I actually think Carrigan could play with one arm. Like, the point is, at this point, he every now and pretty swear, they actually, for real, show highlights when Carrigan does one flick in a headshot. Like, that's where his game's at. But I'll tell you what, when you watch, like, that last match there, who the fuck isn't like, this is cinema? Holy fuck, I'm in. Like, FaZe is the craziest addictive drug in the world, mate. Even when it's killing you. You have to just have one more hit. Please, Carrigan, one more hit in the arena, please. One more time. No, exactly. So, what's great is the old masters get to stay. By the way, Rain as well. By the way, Rain just out there still just fucking winning duels against like 18-year-old kids that have all the Coca-Cola. It's meant like it. I know. No, I agree with you. That's the thing as well, though. It's not that like there's just a new way to play only. It's that you have it all. You have like the people who want to play. I bet the CS2 probably helps with this. You have the up-tempo style. Oh, so if you're like the young fragger, you're in your fucking heyday now, mate. Before you had to have the setup, you had to know where the CT was. So now the game's actually somewhat primed to bring in the next generation. Right.
It really is, yeah.
Maui, what on earth is your good point? What on earth?
I kind of reverse engineered my good point. Okay. I kind of was like, okay, what should I do here? Because I felt like a lot of the results at Katowice so far were fairly straightforward, except for one team. And that's why I wanted to make them my good point.
Okay.
Because then I decided okay, I'll take a closer look at them, give me something to think about a little bit more. And it's like, I noticed VP kind of snuck into these playoffs.
Yep.
And so I went back and watched their games, and I feel like watching Electronic in particular to me has been just a really pleasant surprise for what he's doing in Katowice. And so my good point overall is just that even though a couple years ago, a lot of us clowned Electronic for trying to hold on to the IGL mantle for as long as he did. Sure, like the Blast Spring final in like, what was it, 2023? Or was it 22? They won that with kind of the playbook from Boomich, and then he kind of like wanted to be an in-game leader again for Cloud9, and then Boomich took it back from him, and then they actually looked better after that. I just think that right now, VP doesn't really strike me as a world beater team, but Electronic has actually done some reflection, and that's what I was worried about the most when he was taking up this role, where he's more of a supportive element now than he was on Cloud9 or on Navi, and he also in interviews comes across just a lot more level-headed. And so I would say the good point overall here is Electronic's growth and the way he's maturing, because I don't know if we're going to, by the end of the season, be able to joke about him as like this failure of an in-game leader who's like power hungry or anything like that. Like, I think he actually has now gained an understanding of what it means to be a captain and also how to be a good tactical leader. So yeah, good point overall. The evolution of Electronic has been quite positive.
What do you think, Zeus?
Well, first, I think I am very badly prepared to speak on Virtus Pro because I've watched many of the matches recently, but they are one of the teams that is like flies under my radar. I try to go for the Brazilian teams, for X teams, right? Got to root against. You know how that shit goes. So, but I do know these guys quite well, right? I love CS, especially Electronic. I've had the pleasure of talking to him many times, and I did see how he's evolved, right? I think in his personal life, he's a guy with a family now, married. His head's like correctly on his shoulder. He's one of those guys who, like most of us, when you get your entry into esports, you're kind of like starry-eyed about it all, right? Like you're seeing a lot of great players, and especially when you're one of those players. Electronic is one that like really flourished on the scenes. And I'm not even like nudging that he was crazy or anything like that, but I'll say like I was out, so I'd see him out, something like that. And I have the feeling he's a different person now. And from our last chats, I do feel that he's someone who realizes not only that life is meant to be a little bit like better, like a little bit more stable. You don't need to be as crazy. He has more responsibilities, but he also knows that life is CS centered, like CS is that priority. So I also don't know what went on with James, all that for them to leave. I can only speculate, right? But it's obvious the situation isn't good. I have a bit of a different theory for him. IGLs, I know the game has evolved a lot, but this used to be a lot more true before. But you can make IGLs, and really the better IGLs, they're normally born in their circumstance and necessity, right? It's not because they plan it out. And it's, to me, if I were to take a wild guess, just like on my intuition, it'd be that things in VP weren't going well, but I don't know if it's because Jamie was doing a bad job, if he was stuck on an old thing, or if you just fight. Like, that's what you do, right? In esports, you fight, you make up, whatever it is. But they needed new, and he probably, with that responsibility of already being that, he's like, fuck it, I'll do this shit. Like, I'll sacrifice myself like most older players. And when it comes from necessity, you tend to give it your all, right? When it's not forced on you, or you're just doing it to scapegoat someone.
Sure. I will say, Maui, that actually for me, I noticed Yanko was riding this train too. Bro, you can tell who didn't watch the first games of VP. Look, I don't blame you. You could actually wipe out the last year and a half of VP out of your brain. Like, unless the event name was ESL Challenger, it's fucking irrelevant. Like, they're never getting to the playoffs. They're never going to do anything. Everyone knows they just they had like zero fucking game to there. Like, there was nothing interesting. That's why everyone did hate on Electronic. I don't know who was called in that team, but I don't blame them. It looked like he'd done Cloud9 and then this team, and it was Boomich who saved Cloud9's fucking calling style. So I got it. If you watch them now, bro, it's a revelation. Actually, what's crazy is they have like an all-round game. Like, if you don't know, by the way, the signings that they've done, Fucking flawless. Because whereas before they signed the big Russian names, now they've signed the ones that are just good but don't have the big names. The Icy guy was good in Cloud9 if you saw it, guys. He fucking cooks on the T side. Flit, by the way, you know, we all kept saying, oh, maybe Electronic Stamp. Flit is cooking CT sides again. You put that guy there and he will fucking mow people down. And if you didn't follow GamerLegion, there's a reason why GamerLegion had to rebuild. Because that Flammers guy is like, look, no one's donk, but he just fucking will take every entry you ever want, mate. He's just fucking T-side is his game. And if you don't know, he has 30% usage on opening and he has like 46% or something insane. Like, fucking bonkers, bro. So you look at the team now. Look, Electronic's still going to have to do a great job. His own individual games dropped off. Aside from that, mate, what's not to like? And if you look at how they were playing in this tournament, right? First of all, everyone was going to say G2 should be like a world contender. 2-0 of them. They took out the Eternal Fire that at the moment, if you like slip up late in a game, they just crack you wide open. They just beat them straight up, just grinded them out. Like, I think actually the saddest thing of all is when you hear this episode, all this doesn't matter because the Flammers guy's visa ran out, unfortunately. So he's not going to be there in the arena. So we'll never actually know what would happen. Like, would they have gone to... By the way, think about it, if they'd have beaten Spirit, then if they'd had Na'Vi... Obviously, they had the Murderer's Row. We'd actually know how good they are. Unfortunately, because if people don't know, the way you apply for visas in their countries is you don't just, like, top it up or whatever. You had an existing visa. He joined this team. I don't blame them, by the way. Nobody knew they'd be in bloody arena. Who the fuck thought that? So, unfortunately, it turns out, like... It's a good problem to have, but now they're not going to have him. And by the way, they're not going to be the same team. But I do agree, actually. I think they look fucking great. They look way better, mate. Look, they're actually a team I am absolutely interested in now. Especially because I've been waiting for all that talent that's been sat there. Like, there's no way people like Flit are actually shit. So yes, that's another blame F situation, mate. A player like that can't be bad. There's something going on with the environment or his role if they have no numbers, you know.
I also, one thing that in terms of the micro of watching them play, when they played G2 and they beat them, this was kind of one of those games where Snacks just called the same play over and over and over again. And the thing is, they used to get away with this because a lot of teams, for two reasons. One, they had Nico and MongolZ just running in first, and they would just kill everybody. But this is one of the rare games where they're just completely punished for it on Mirage. They just kept going B over and over and over again. And one thing I liked watching Electronic and VP in this game is they just kept Icy on B like the entire game. They actually were like, okay, like they didn't lose the game of chicken that a lot of lower tier teams do when they play against the G2, where it's like, they're not going to go B an 8th time in a row, are they? And then when they do, Icy's just there. And there was a point, I think Icy was no joke, like 17-3, because it's just like, all right, you're just going to keep doing B execs on us. So I'm glad that like Electronic is probably just being like, no, he is just going to do that. So overall, I think that the way that they read things on their own defense is good. It's just like understanding your opponent's tendencies well. And also, when I watch their T sides, they're not really one note either. I think that's another thing I like. It's actually not just sending out a Yakindar type player to his death and then saving or anything like that. Like, they actually have multiple layers to their strategies. Like, they're trying to like take control in one spot, but then they have like a release valve on the other side of the map. It's like, if we die in mid, then these guys at ramp and palace can just swing and they'll just try to make something happen. Like, it feels a little bit more thought out instead of just like, I don't know, like when watching Jame T sides before, I just sometimes felt like you're playing turn-based chess and everybody else is playing the real-time strategy game that this is. So yeah, overall, I just think they're more cohesive on a macro level than the last one, which was like, I just feel like I'm watching like 4 fucking QoP models just like trying to fall over themselves or some shit, you know? Like it just was too clunky before, but now it feels smoother.
Okay, right, for my good point, this for me is an obvious one in light of the ones that you've all taken. It's got to be the fucking GamerLegion rebuild, and the key word is rebuild. The reason why this Ash guy now has like insane credit in the scene and crazy goodwill is because remember, he had the team, right, that he'd had that team at IEM Rio, they got there, and then they did nothing. Then the same lineup, he then took to the final of Blast Paris, immediately lost Ima and siuhy, who just went off to Mouse and fucking Na'Vi, so he lost his 2 key pieces, and then he had to do a rebuild. He had Snacks, if you remember, he rebuilt that way. people forget this detail, in early CS2, when FaZe used to make every final, this team beat them like 3 times or something during those tournaments. Like, they would never make like playoffs themselves, but they had no business being that good. It's even how I think Snacks got picked up in a G2. Then he did the other rebuild for the last major, where he had Flammers, and he had all these super young guys. Then he got Flammers taken from him. Like, fucking hell, this guy can't catch a break. But the difference is, every time they punish him like this, he just shows his fucking money. He must just be like the craziest eye in the game. Because he went out there, and the players he's picked up now, guys, they were all in the scene. They weren't hidden. No one else wanted them. No one was trying to get these guys. And he said, oh, put these guys together. And you go and look at Katowice now. Here's what they did in this tournament. So they beat Saw, who was half decent. They're not as good anymore. They lost to big players. They beat Pain Gaming, who I actually think's good. I even highlighted them on a past episode. Then in the main event, they just clapped that Mouse team. Yes, Mouse doesn't have an IGL. They still have fraggers, mate. They still have people who can shoot you in the head. Then you go, they lost to MongolZ. Fair enough, MongolZ on a heater. They just 2-0'd Astralis. Now, I just want to point out for anyone who didn't see Astralis, this isn't like when a device was having a break. They're all in the fucking server. Cadian's there, Stound's there, Yappy's there. 2-0 them, straight out. And then against Spirit, bro, like, they won a fucking map against the world champions. The world champions. This roster has no bit. This should be an ESL Challenger roster. Or this should be like a playing roster that gets to the first round and goes, oh, cool. Oh, shit. Katowice and loses. Like, this is bonkers that you're that close to it. I mean, let's just put it this way. Basically, because MongolZ did the business on you in the upper bracket, you had to beat the major finalists if you were going to make the arena. I don't expect you to make the arena. You've already punched way above your weight there. And then you go and look at the roster. Again, I'll just quickly read this out because I challenge anyone to say this was like a roster you all knew was sick. ZTR, you literally call 0T rounds because you all think he is shit because you still think it is 2021. Then you have Towson. You don't even know him. You couldn't even tell me what team he was on. He was on a Danish team. I'll give you that clue. Slend was already out there in the scene, but the problem is everyone thought he was an onliner. Rez, the joke was, it was like, is it time for Rez to retire? Why has he just been a nip for 1 million years? And then PR, I don't even know who he is. I mean, there's about 1 million Czech players. I don't even know who I still don't know. I'm learning now. I'm learning with you guys. Where's the fucking HLTV top 20 players? There's none. There's not even one that's close. Like, this Ash guy must be fucking... He just has... In English, we say you have the Midas touch. It all just turns to gold. Like, it's fucking crazy. And the reason why I'm especially highlighting him is everyone always goes, oh, why does he just go to a bigger org? Because here's the thing. I imagine if Vitality offered him the gig, he'd say yes. But he doesn't want to be an OG or Fnatic, you know. The problem with those orgs is he wouldn't be in a better position. And I've heard, because he's done the business in GamerLegion, they actually gave him every coach's dream. He picks the roster. He decides how it's all run. Well, I'll tell you what, that's not, you're not getting paid the greatest money in the world, but that's the dream. A lot of people have had to suffer through the roster they didn't want, or have, oh shit, now I can't even pick up the next one, or I don't get to say over how we do things. So this guy is cooking right now. He is fucking cooking, boys. Thoughts, Zeus? What do you think?
Dude, beautiful rant, because I second everything that you're saying. I actually had here as an asterisk, that could have been my good point, because I think that it's so rare to see it in the scene, right? Especially something so close to home. But what he's done is amazing, because even him, he wasn't on that. But then I heard, I think it was yesterday in the broadcast, he's been there since 2020.
Ages, right? Yeah.
Since 2020, it kind of like gives me that good reminder of like sympathy when I joined Liquid. Like, it's someone that built something there, gained their respect, and he's able to now reap the rewards of all his hard work. And I'm sure to do that, he had to get so much like favor with the players and endure so much, right? So I'm gonna be careful not to overhype, just because I was on this side of the receiving these compliments in those Liquid eras, and I know that players can sometimes like think, oh shit, the coach is like, but we're the ones playing. Guys, if you hear this, value what you fucking have, because like Duncan is saying here, that's fucking gold right now. Like, it should be org first, and if you're aligned with the interest in the sense of the team, you guys will all be doing together. There will be one vision, and it will be neutral. So I'm fucking impressed, and pay the money. Pay the man his money. I think that's my biggest request from this. Is like, once you put in and you do the job, get your worth. No,
it's just continuously impressive how GamerLegion is maintaining relevancy, even when they lost siuhy, they lost Ema, you know, I feel like they've had so many people that have slipped through their fingers, and it's not that they're slipping, like, it's a business model. Like, they're in the business of selling players and building them up and everything like that. And at this point, I just hope Ash is getting a cut of that, okay? Because like he's probably one of the reasons that these players are built up in the way that they have, like Flamus, for example. You know, like I feel like GamerLegion and Ash right now they're in a position where the firepower, even though this has been such an impressive result, I'm only worried about them because I feel like people have to take them seriously, and they will take them seriously. And when some of the better teams like an Astralis, who I'm gonna be real, like I feel like the player quality on Astralis, even though they lost in the fashion they did, it should be better.
Of
so
course,
I feel like
yeah.
Astralis should be taking them seriously the next time. And so I just hope, I guess, GamerLegion didn't peak too early. Like I want them to make the major, for example. I want them to kind of have these upset runs regularly so that they can fight at a bigger tournament where everybody's taking them a little bit more seriously, because these flash in the pan moments for them are brilliant in like right now to celebrate, but like if it comes crashing down too early or they're peaking too early, then like if anything, they did the perfect thing last season where it's like they peaked right when they were supposed to for the RMR to make it to the major off of what was actually not looking like a great season for them. And then they made a roster change with like a month and a half to go to the RMR or something like that. And then it actually worked in their favor. I think that was for Tossin actually. And then because I think they got Tossin for Andu,
Yes,
was it?
I think that was so, yes.
Yeah. And so now I think they have a roster that they want to move forward with. And you would think that progress would be linear, but I'll just say, like, if you're against players of higher caliber regularly, and that progress that looked linear on paper maybe was actually a little bit because the other teams were thinking that you weren't anybody, but now they're just going to have to respect you. And that's all I'm trying to say is just like,
yeah.
I think this is an insanely impressive run already. The wins they got were very impressive. I think it's going to get harder. That's my concern.
Apparently it was Flamus, to be fair. Okay, all good.
Yeah.
Go on, Zews.
Flamus for Andu, yeah.
I think your point is correct. Like, it's such high praise exactly because we kind of, knowing how the scene works, we imagine that he's overcoming hurdles that others don't, and he's doing more with less, like just being direct. If you look at the resources that Zonic has in Falcons and you compare it to this, it's like, who should be getting these results and surprising us and things like that.
Yeah.
That's why we're happy with it. But I am with Maui because there should, in theory, be a blockade here, and this probably is where they are peaking right now. If I were to make a forms list off my head, it'd be like Spirit, Navi, RS plus Vitality below them, right? And then you maybe have the Eternal Fire FaZe guys right now. I think that's probably like a top 5. Everything else I consider kind of on a very different tier. But these guys, if they played like they're playing, they could be the gatekeepers for that. And that's like insane if you consider that there are no top 20 players on that lineup. If we're giving them the credit of playing like a top 6 team that will gatekeep the S tier, which is in theory for only the big bad orgs who actually have the money to put down for that thing. That's hell of impressive. Like, your cost benefit is amazing.
Well, I like the sound of GamerLegion being the gatekeepers, and I also like the sound of Raycon earbuds. These are the everyday earbuds here. And if you don't know, I used to be mega skeptical actually of earbud ones. I always thought I want like the big overhead one, the cans with the closed back, etc. Actually, the reason why these are mega is, first of all, they have the active noise cancellation. We all know if you go on flights, that is actually a must. You need that, otherwise you'll never get any sleep. The baby's crying, people are doing all stuff in the background. Also, one of the things I find it really good for is they have that technology where you can just sort of like pause it really quickly while you're doing so. You don't have to like scramble around in your pocket. That actually means, by the way, if you're like listening to this podcast now, or you're just listening to some music and you're cooking or something like that, or listening to this podcast while cooking, if someone comes and talks to you, you don't have to be like, sorry, what are you doing? Scramble and get it off. You can just press it and then you're just talking to them, and then you press it and it goes back again. So there's so many excellent features, I think, on these ones. They've also got the 32-hour battery life, which is fucking insane, by the way. That means it lasts your entire... Like, you could go to Australia on the flights for that one. You're not going to have to find somewhere to plug it in and charge it. But if it does run out, one of the most insane things is 10 minutes of charge is 90 minutes of battery. So if you even forget before you run out, you've only got 15 minutes left. Oh, I didn't charge it before the train. You can do it. You'll have it. You'll have 90 minutes. By the way, that means if you can ever get an outlet on a train, so 10 minutes is all you need. You don't need one of those ones where it's charging forever. It's going up 1% like I've had on planes with other things. So it's actually a banger. Also, the price point is excellent. Comes in a bazillion colours. I obviously chose black because I'm a boomer, so I only see in black and white and don't know about aesthetics and colour and zoomers and all that jazz. Whatever, skibbity toilet or something. And then basically, if you don't love Raycons, then they'll give you a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy. In other words, no questions asked, you just get your money back. So go to raycon.com, it's on the screen, /snake, obviously for Snake and Banter, to get up to 20% off site-wide. This is an offer they're giving to our fans here. That's right, you get up to 20% off everything on the Raycon website. They have other features as well, including 20% off all headphones too, when you go to buyraycon.com /snake. buyraycon.com/Snake. Thank you to Raycon. Thank you to their wonderful headset. And also, thank you to everyone who purchases them on this show and supports them and gets yourself a discount. Right, now let's go to the section that's my favourite. It's called the bad. Because you know what? Life is light and shadow. You cannot have light without darkness. So we talked about the good. What bad things are there in the world, Zews? What would we like to highlight today?
Oh, we start with me on this one. All right. Do they all start with me?
Yeah,
right.
they all start with you.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go like that.
Like Brazilian championships, they all start with you.
No, thank you.
There haven't been many since, quite frankly.
Yeah, lately it's not working. Yeah, better days will come. Better days will be coming soon. All right. So I could have gone two ways with this, right? I do want to bring up, I wanted to talk a little bit about Donk and how he could have been, like, one of my bad takes is I see the reactions, and that's been a discussion recently. Like, he gets emotional, but it's just that I think that he can be someone like, he should look Cristiano Ronaldo, kind of like the athlete, not just the player. Because if he's doing this good and he's still having those things, it just means it can be better. So
Okay.
I'll go where actually everyone wants me to go, right? So it's something I have a little bit more insight, and that's, in my opinion, my bad point is how Twistzz is a bad IGL, and how I think that they should get siuhy in the place of Ultimate in this case, and play like that Liquid roster from 2018, 2019.
What?
He's bringing some heat. He's bringing a little bit of heat there, you know.
Oh my god.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the reasoning?
All right, I'll go. So for me to get into this reasoning, I got to tell first context, right? Story, because I have a big history, but I'll try to make it short, right? And so before even that, I know some of the people who are going to be watching this might be thinking, oh, he's still butthurt about this shit, like whatever. Yeah, fuck it. I kind of still am. I'm okay with it. Life goes on.
Okay,
right?
I see you.
I'm okay. Life's gone. I'm getting better and more, but moving on doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean being quiet, right? I'm not in that middle anymore, and I think people deserve to see. So even for Russ and for Liquid or for everything, don't take this as a direct jab. It's just how I see it, right? Every story has every side, but I will be kind of like laying out everything. And so that story kind of start with like when I actually first joined Liquid, right? When I first joined Liquid, I was first an idiot because I had left the #1 team in the world in SK to go be a player.
Sure.
Right. After that, joined Liquid as a coach. And goals there were honestly very modest at the time from what I was used to being. They just wanted to be the best NA team, right? And that's where my job started there. And it was a team with Hiko, Elige, Nitro. And after 1 month and a half, something like that there, I had to make an assessment. And my assessments, even since then, I have a saying that I go where it's like, I always say what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And what I said then, even to the players who are on my team, I'm sorry if you hear that, but it's like, from this roster, if you want a long-term project, you're only going to get Nitro and Elige right full term. We have to go slowly building. And they were already in process of talking to Stanislaw, but Twistzz was kind of my actual first real hire there. It could be, I guess, in technicality Stanislaw, but since it was something that was already being done, it was free coming from Optic at the time, was just more like getting it done than actually thinking. I consider Russ kind of like my first guy. I always had a lot of good thoughts, like my little brother kind of thing, right? Had teaching him how to go and things like that. And with the help of Russ, because he's so good, we went from being like, from the goals of trying to be the best, we ended up getting NAF. We got Steel and Taco who came in, right? But we went not only being NA's best team, we became the #2 best team in the world, only losing to the Australis, as we were mentioning. So we built a lot of repertoire within the team, and kind of like we were talking about Ash now, it was like a really cool building something, because like to get into a position like that is so rare in the scene. And so for anybody watching, getting what like the future might be, you have to eat a lot of shit. Like you have to eat the part of the shit sandwich, right? When you're talking to players, how you're gonna do this thing. You actually just have to, like, that's kind of how life is. But you once get there, and things were actually looking really good, right? I received high praise. were being the best team. And I heard something there where it's like, I heard that I was not only the best coach Liquid had ever seen, but it was across all esports, not just CS.
Okay.
And Liquid, from the people who are more in the know, I think everyone knows, is gigantic. Like
They were one
Liquid-
TI, everything, yeah.
that not only like the structure, the way they work. I as a coach, I had like I was starry eyes as well, you know, with what I built there and hearing that, like of course, proud, everything like that. But like I said, I'm fucking crazy. And again, this time I got homesick and I left the #2 team in the world in which I had built, in which I had brought the players on myself, in which I had equity in the company. For those who didn't know, for small micro equity, kind of like what Elish has, but that's how much they like believed in me, right? So very special place in my heart. So why did I tell this entire long story of how I got here? First is like for Maui, like I remember a lot of the criticism you even asked me, like, oh, what do you think? I'm like, at the time, of course, like you know how esports is. You can't say everything that's going on. Gotta protect players, gotta protect the org, but it's like the story doesn't go like that. How does it go? And this, I swear, this all leads to Twistzz, and it's not something
No,
just
no,
like
it's all
not
good.
trying. Yeah, no, I'm saying for the public. I know how
Right,
people
sure,
go,
yeah.
and right. So when I was here, I was already retired. The Fluke thing, I agree that that wasn't a good team. I again had only one job there, which was getting them to the major, and was fired after because I was became too expensive for him. But Liquid, like Joka calls me, dude, what do you think about joining Liquid? Again, special place in my heart. I didn't hesitate. I didn't care who the roster was, what was gonna happen. I'm like, I'll join this. I'll do it. It was supposed to be a weird roster, and then I hear it could be an amazing roster. So, but like point of correction one, which is I think is important, is the roster was already being built. Like they already had or the talks with Cadian, with Russ, with Yakinder and Naf was already there. Naf wanted to leave, but he wanted assurances that for the player to stay, right?
Right.
So I'm coming into kind of a chaotic scenario, and one of the first things that I have to do, in a sense, is convince Russ to get on the team, and that's kind of why I'm hired by Liquid, right? Like they remember, like I helped build that roster and everything that happened, and I do this while being 100% trying to be genuine and good to Russ, like because like while all this is happening, for those who remember, FaZe was winning 3 finals, right? Like shit was going crazy, and I can only imagine what was going through little dude's head at the time, right? Like he wanted to leave, contracts ending, orgs fucking him, good friends there, but wants to go to Liquid. There's history, there's potential in the roster, things like that. In the end, left the choice entirely up to him. Just of course said what I thought and what I believed in. He asked me for advice as a mentor, as he mentioned at the time, and I gave it to him honestly. And I didn't know if he would come, but somehow he ended up choosing to come to us. And in Liquid, everyone was like, Zews, you did it, blah blah blah. But I'm happy that I did it in a way where I maintained like the values and things that I believe, right? Not trying to spin a narrative of pure, it's just something that I tried to look for. And things keep going. And so I didn't build a roster. And then for the skulls point, because all of this ties into what leads us to today. But to make this roster happen, right, to get it in, we had to lock in a player. And it was really important for us to have the NA spots, right? It wasn't a necessity 100%, but let's just say it was very heavily
You couldn't sign an
favored,
EU
right?
player,
Like,
yes, yes.
yeah, it would be very, very favored if we were able to go there.
Yes.
And there's very few options. JKS was there, but we didn't want and Brazilian following. You're here, all that, and then
Yeah.
this whole thing's coming. We'll talk. I can't say the value of itself because of contracts, and that org pain is just a pain in the ass. They try to fuck that kid, so fuck them. But they were like, it was an expensive amount. But when you factor in that amount for the org, it's cheap because you're not paying for skulls. You're paying to get Cadian and Twistzz and Nav to resign. So you're maintaining a lot, and they're subsidizing that cost and heavily on salaries, right, for the player. Removing from that pain is being a dick, and removing some parts from his winnings from major, which is a shitty Brazilian thing that people do that just pisses me the fuck off. But that's the country I live in, and the organizations here. While I like the players, a lot of them are fucked up, but that's a whole different story and thing. Right, but we get him, and it's because Russ said, like, if you give me skulls, we'll touch. So I even said, like, here, not anyone knows this, and this probably might get us flack, but it was what it was. Like, on the last day of the skulls thing, we got wind that Nerds was available and on the market. It's like, holy shit, it's Nerds. Look what that kid's doing. That kid's a fucking monster. But at that same time, now we had gotten commitment from Twistzz. We had gotten skulls there. Like I said, it was a gigantic fight with Cadian and Nav. And so management and myself come to the conclusion that we can't risk it all because we'd lose everything, and it was past registration times. We had already sent it in on things like that. Again, unfortunately, one of the shitty aspects of esports. But we were supposed to be fine. Blow number one that we get to the story, somehow we fucked up our roster signing, and we had to start from zero because We had the core 3 players, but we didn't substitute OC rightly. I don't know 100% the rules. So we were supposed to be in Katowice, supposed to be in all this shit. Blah, blah. There could be 1,000 things that were going on, excuses. But so our team grew frustrated, but it comes to the point now about Russ, right? Our team there, we had a big problem of personalities. Everyone of the media rightly criticized and I guess speculated that there would be too many voices going in that team. And they're right. There are a lot of voices, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just there's experience and things going on. But we forgot kind of an important aspect that with these personalities and all these things, not necessarily sometimes like what people are saying or what they are doing is what they mean, right? So we had the whole retreat. Everything was beautiful. Like, see the videos. Like, we actually had a lot of fun there. I felt so bad when I heard afterwards that some people, oh, we shouldn't have gone to the retreat and things like that, because the reasons that are being said publicly aren't like the real reasons. They're like, oh, we wasted time. Like, bullshit. We liked time there. It's just things changed afterward. And why did things change? So I'll open up. Like, I'm gonna forgive me if I get the dates wrong. But it's gonna be a rough guesstimation, right? Memory sometimes fail. Like 3 weeks before the RMR, I don't know why. I remember I had to be in I was at the Liquid offices, but I had to be in my room. I think I had removed my tooth and ran back to go to scrims. And I get back and chaos is breaking hell in the TeamSpeak from what I see. Yelling's going on. There was a fight. As you can imagine, it was Russ and Casper. And I'm trying to calm down. I thought it was a fucking joke, whatever it was. But it's my job. I'm supposed to be there and do. But it gets like bad. There was yelling. There was, yes, it was so stupid. I swear. Like I said, I thought it was a joke, but there was yelling, shit like that. I set up a meeting, how I am. We're going to try to solve this shit. And kind of, I blame one key moment, but that's one of the moments that things start going. We didn't really find a solution there. And we didn't find a solution because we couldn't talk. And a lot of that goes because Russ couldn't find a way to talk to Casper, honestly, to actually figure shit out. And I'm like, after the meeting ended, we called CEO, we had like management, psychologists, like all that shit. Like, way bigger deal than it should have been, honestly, even looking back. It was like, we couldn't get to the point. And from there, honestly, it's hard for the team to move forward, right? It's not an excuse for anything, but communications didn't start. Our captain, when we want to talk to our star player, and Russ was sort of the leader for everyone because he's the one that, again, when he signed, everything was officialized, right?
Yeah.
So Skulls was there because of him. Kaden was there because of him. I was there because of him. Like, all this shit. So that's when things got funky, but it wasn't to be. Like, of course, it's a long, slippery slope, and right, things go like that. So, all right, RMR goes. We fucked up. I'm not even gonna go like a weird format, but we fucked up. We had to, like, we were the clear favorite for that. And right before that, I had heard in the meeting, like, there wasn't a board meeting going on, and Liquid does this really cool thing in the office where they want everyone to participate, and they're talking about our team, and Liquid really had high hopes for our teams, right? And I got another praise there, and this is something that I'm still going to be proud of. I don't know, like, after today, I'm going through this entire process while I'm here with you guys, but it's like, I remember hearing again, then CEOs of the company saying, Zews, the guy, is responsible for building our Grand Slam roster. And I was super proud of that because that's something they never said out loud before.
Right.
And everyone's going to be like, why is that? Because even when I was leaving Liquid at that time, like my first time, I told them to get Stewie because he would be the right fit. They wanted to get Tarek, and they ended up getting Tarek. Tarek was lazy. I don't know what the fuck he did. They got Stewie. They saw I was right. But like, even then, I tried to do always the best thing for the organization because I had such high regards for it. So after hearing that, we fucked up in the RMR. I'm asked to do kind of a PR thing internally. That's fine. But from there, my recommendations are like, either we solve this shit right now, right? Find the news, turn the leaf, all that psychology shit that we were running at the time, or we have to do something. And I know people. Like, Russ could not confront Casper. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's all, but like, he could not confront, it's because he couldn't even say what it was. So how could we have resolution when Casper wouldn't even know what it was? And that's not to excuse Casper. He's done a lot. Like, he was weird there and a lot of shit, right? But still, it's all in conversation that's supposed to be had. And that kept going. But so it just got to a point where I'm like, okay, this is not going to work out. I have to make a recommendation for Liquid as my position. I do kind of that same assessment that we had with the Liege and Nitro in the days. And I'm like, this is going like this, and I give my assessment. My assessment is kind of in line with where we were. I'm like, Scholes was the thing, but he bought us time. I think he wants to go to Furia. I think we can make a deal there. He's probably the best Brazilian player still. We can make the money back in that sense and like space it out over major payment. Let's be smart about it, do all that shit, trying to find a substitute. But when it comes to the important part, it's like, Casper, dude, I actually love the guy. I think he's very energetic. I told him this in the beginning. I think he was one of the better leaders I've ever worked with, like like inspiring. And it's small details. Like Russ doesn't know how to play like ping pong. He'd go there and catch the paddle. No, so I'm like, I'm half broken with this shit because I know what I have to do. Right? It's my job, and I got to remove my emotions and my things from middle and be neutral and be great. So I recommend that Casper go out, but because we're never gonna have a team that follows him at this point, like I used to have a saying, I used to say this about Fur, but it goes like again here, it's like one bad apple will contaminate the rest, and it's like it's really hard to go the other way around and kind of like get that guy back. And so I recommend that we're moving forward. No, then Liquid's like, let's wait, let's try it out a little bit, and even then, this is probably where my fair shit starts kicking in. I start going like, I'm starting getting fed up because I see that we're not saying what's the reason. It's like, oh, I don't like your calling. Oh, I don't like this. And the reason when I know is like, because Russ has told me that he doesn't, not me, he told us that he doesn't like how Casper is as a human, that he does some shit. I'm like, you dislike the guy on a personal level and you can't even tell him that. So how the fuck are we going to do this shit? Right? It's a clusterfuck. And so it goes like that. And then the recommendation. And then I'm going into much detail just because I think it like the specifics are important here, at least in how I remember it. We're going, and then we go and we have a good tournament in China. So Casper was basically already out there, but then China was amazing. The crowd was fun. Everything's working well. We get the team. Like I improved my methods of working with them because they weren't happy as well with that in the moment. Because they weren't happy because me and Casper also couldn't work. That's why I said like honestly, that's why I know Casper also has fair shit because I couldn't work with Casper either, but it was for different reasons, right? Like because I was trying to fix. But anyway, so China works, a little breath of fresh air. Things are going okay. Hey Russ, how we doing? Oh, maybe we can work this out. Maybe we can go, but I still don't think so. Blah blah blah. And go to the next event. Like okay, talk. Go to the next event. This is Pro League, and this is kind of like closer to the end of the story where we're going. Like in Pro League, we did all right, but not well enough. But most of us got the feeling that not a real chance was given there, but also some other shit happened that I don't want to get into. But like, okay, it's official. We're gonna go. We have Russ gives us an ultimatum on the rooftop. Like, oh, either this happens, like he's got to go, and we're probably moving on close too. Maybe he wanted to move on that. I'm like, you're fucking insane. Are you kidding me? Like, no, that can't happen. Blah blah blah. Yeah, exactly. Like it's a big story, guys. Trust me. It's a dude. This is gonna be a fun episode. I hope you either love it or hate it. Yeah. So okay, we're gonna move on with this. I get back to the Utrecht facility. We're there, and get a call from Joka. Hey, Russ wants to go to Vitality. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm gonna have to do this shit. And like, this gets going with it. Like, no, let's do. I have to again, like 8-10 hours talking, thinking how I'm gonna talk to this, how I'm gonna approach. Like, that's what I believe coaching is, and people should know that because that is part of the job of coaching is keeping your like team together. Liquid tried to buy Breezy and Cirque at the time. I had to stop it from happening. Random thing, but like that's how you have to do your job. That's part of the job that people never see. So all that we have, I'm like, Jesus, Russ, you can't do this. Like you're asking to be captain of the team. You're doing all this shit. We're making all these moves, looking at all these people. Like we're already committed to do this shit. And like you're saying you want to leave now, and you're not actually. He's not even saying he wants to leave. We heard from other people because we have to keep our ears to the ground and that shit. All right. So like, oh Jesus Christ, no, I'm sorry. Blah blah blah. Fine. Go to that. Then that night, go to the lobby to have a few beers. Me, Yakinder, and Twistzz. Twistzz sits with the FaZe guys. Whatever. He's having fun. I invite his fiance to have a drink with us. We're just talking there. Russ disappears. He's like, go find Russ. I try to search for him in the bathroom. Can't find him. Blah, blah, blah. Can't do it. After a couple hours, I'm like, go to the FaZe guys. Oh, he's talking to those guys. Anyways, why do we get here? Oh, he's blabbing to the FaZe guys about every fucking thing that's going on. Welcome to Esports 101. When people have a drink, shit's going to explode and go off the roof.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, time for Big Daddy Zews to go there again. Let's have another one. So we move places where there's no other fucking players. Go have a conversation. We're like, dude, I'm like, okay, dude, at this point, I've already made the commitment. Like, Casper's going to be out. Like, the relationship there is now stranded to a bad point. The team is kind of here. They're not happy, but, like, they're okay. They believe that Russ maybe could do it, maybe can't. But, like, depends on who we're going in. We start looking at really good options, like number one in the world player options. And that's another thing in Liquid that is like so hard to get players and shit like
Yep.
that. But
Yep.
sidetracked. So, talking to him there, probably the biggest thing. And looking back, honestly, that's kind of where I feel my time ended. Because in that conversation, we're talking about the future, and he's just like, Zews, I'm getting the feeling from you that you want to be involved in the building of this team. And again, I'm the guy who will always say what you want, not what you want to hear, what you need to hear. And what's the truth? I'm like, yeah, of course I want to be involved. That's kind of like my job. I built that roster. Like, you were my first hire. How the fuck am I not going to be involved in this? And from there, things change. He's going to say that I don't know what else happened. And seemed like it was fine. Hey, Joe, we good? Yeah, we good. Let's do this. I find a sponsor for like potential sponsor for like $2 million to try to get the number one in the world player. Things good. Yeah, arrive in Brazil. So Russ doesn't want, you're out. So same thing he did, Casper did to me. Couldn't say anything, right? So yes, I'm exposing everything here, not in spite, but how does it relate to my point and to my story? One, just on a personal level, I really wanted to get this story out because it's been 6 months, and even I've been doubting myself. And while I tell the
Right.
story, while I'm sad at Russ, I'm disappointed, as I told him. I'm angry, but I'm also more pissed at Liquid because look at the story that I had there, and they threw away like I was wrong for my thing, and I believed it for a long time. But I just know what isn't right. Like, Close is performing, the things are there. The Joker was put in that position, and the sad thing is, like, when I was leaving, I even heard Naf. No, I thought we were great. Kinder, I thought we were great, but Russ wants to do this. Close is out, and Casper was out, so it's like, oh, it's obvious where it's coming from and things like that. Then I hear from management, it's like, yeah, but I'm scared for my job too to stay here and shit
Right.
like that. I gotta make it work.
Sure.
So like even the organization loses power, right? So it's a shitty. So the conclusion to all this, yes, it's a shitty story. It's a big story, but also I don't think he's gonna be a good leader because leadership is leadership. It's you have to talk to people. You have to be straightforward. You have to convince them. A good leader has people that follow them because you make sense, not because it's forced or because it's my way or because like blind followers really doesn't work in my humble opinion. Russ is probably the best skilled fragger I've ever seen. He's insane. I think even through all that shit, I used to think he has good intentions. I don't know where that is now. Forgive and move on, kind of forget and move on, kind of that thing. But not a good leader. And for Liquid, I don't think Liquid's ever going to be a top 8 arena team, as my hot take here for the bad point, because with leadership you need consistency, right? He's going to be able to call good strats. He's knowledgeable, but he's not going to be able to lead a team. And if we look, Spirit, Eternal Fire, these guys are kicking ass. They're a really like knit group of players that are working together and have all of that. Like I said, everyone has skill, everyone has team play. The extra Weiss Kerrigan bottom fragging, one flicking highlight, and there every time because it's a fucking fighter mentality and knows how to deal with people. So that's my gigantic ass points, boys.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, thanks for providing all of that. It's rare we get that much of an expose in a point, and I would say that it shines a lot of new light on an issue that, as people, even pundits in the space, maybe Thorin had differing amounts of information than I did. I know he did, but like as someone who's just working with the pieces of little bits and bobs that I was fed, but mostly just working with things that are in the public sphere, such as interviews, I guess body language, other podcast snippets, and how things were transpiring. This definitely just says a little bit more, and it tells a lot in terms of the interpersonal workings, which I will say, like, I was critical of that lineup for a variety of reasons. I think that the obvious ones were like how Yakindar and Skulls for me weren't as individuals playing up to snuff. Cadian as a primary opper wasn't really always delivering, but even in terms of just game philosophy and style of play, I feel like that's where you can usually feel a team and see and try to make sense of what's going on behind the scenes. And I would just say that compared to everything we ever saw with Cadian-led teams in the past to that one, it was a massively drastic change. As in, like, it almost felt a lot more cookie cutter and lifeless as opposed to heroic when he was calling for them and they were the best team in the world. It really felt like, oh wow, they're moving like an amorphous unit where everybody understands at all points in time how they're affecting everybody else across the map and what they need to do in order to secure the play that somebody else might be making on the other side of the map, and how to work with each other in the micro off of each other. So that was where I guess you guys felt very, very far behind, because it was almost like the way you guys won was, oh, okay, wow, you Kindar actually got like 6 entries this game. That was rare, but it happened. Or like, oh wow, like Twistzz and Naf are just like winning these late rounds out of nowhere. Or like, okay, cool, Skull's actually got a couple multi-frags on his bomb. It felt like it was more off of the back of individual efforts than in a cohesive unit that you actually would have expected to find regular success. And we always relate, for a long time at least we did, we related team success with how Astralis in their prime looked, where it's like, boom, you're flashing for the other guy, boom, you're swinging together, boom, you have this like well-constructed play that now allows Magisk on the other side of the map to find a shot in the side of the head of another guy. It's like, that never happened. Like, you guys were never winning with tactics based off, like, you guys were winning because you had really sick individuals who would all chime in at different points in time, and that's why it never felt sustainable. And I would even say that that's kind of, to your point now about Russ shouldn't be the in-game leader today, that's kind of how I still find it. Like, I still find Liquid to be sort of like that, where it's like the ending of rounds don't always look the most inspired for like how they want to use the pieces that are in these interesting situations. Like the game state's in a weird position. I never see Twistzz being the guy that like puts it together at that point. Whereas like Kerrigan's so good at that, Chopper's so good at that. You know, like they've all had these moments. LXCB, obviously, they all have these moments where it's like, wow, like how did these guys come together with these great timings? Like that comes from the individuals and it comes from the in-game leader. But I'll say Liquid for the last year never was like that. So I'm glad you show. It really, really was informative for how this was just like. I mean, you said it was a clusterfuck. It's just like people. It was probably like 5 guys all doing their own thing and how they think they need to win, which wasn't a singular vision.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the IGL thing, especially like when you look at, I've had a wide variety of work, had the pleasure, right, and luck to work with some of the better IGLs out there, right? Like building Nitro, work with Stanislas. I always thought he was amazing. Fallen, have to say what, he's always done his thing, you know what I mean? Right now in Liquid with Casper, I still think he's a great caller. What you said about his style in the beginning of the team, I thought it was amazing. That's part of the reason, because we did have those calls and we'd move around fast, and it was just purely based on trust. But when you had that trust and that genuine flow, it worked, right? The moment we started questioning things and like it wouldn't work, and it goes back to that cliche saying, it's better to do one wrong decision together kind of thing, but then five wrong ones. Casper says that a lot. I used to say that, but it's for that reason. Like Casper's team, they are not always going to be the ones making the correct statistical decision on which side to hit or why that makes sense to overstack there. But you're sometimes that you get the other side of the coin where they think they're reading and they're walking into stacks. Or when you don't, you go, you save. Guess what? CS is an economy game. That's how you, like, I get where MR 12 now, still an economy game. You know what I mean? So I think it's beautiful. And for Twistzz, it's going to be hard to have that leadership because, one, in the tactics, it's going to take time for those end round calls to come. When you look at Kerrigan, joining those pieces together, making sure they play off each other, it requires a lot of the players as well, right? So to be in that mentality of being rehearsed, to be able to go through those things, but it also requires you to be inspired. Like if you look at the body language of FaZe playing yesterday, right? They were down. All of a sudden, Brokey gets around. He's like, fuck yeah, gets another round. Fuck yeah. They keep going. I'm sure Kerrigan yelling and doing all the replay shit that we see gets him there. Twistzz is the guy who's going to get emotional about it, right? And that's hard. So all of these things that I'm saying, I hope he takes it in and either proves me wrong because I'm a dick for outing this shit, or just, no, I'm actually going to listen to it and get better. Either way, I'm fine. Fuck it. You know, that's life kind of a thing. But I want to see people be good at this game. At the very least, that's what I'm going to keep, like, where my focus and priority and things should be. This is the CS and these are the experiences. I don't think he's going to be good. Can he be? Please try, prove me wrong. I'd love to make something funny out of this. Water's gonna be gone. If not, learn to be better, because right now it's not a fucking good enough job. That's my opinion. And for Liquid, don't be an organization where your back's against the wall. You're one of the biggest orgs in the world. How the fuck are you run by a kid? That's just like insane. Or the girlfriend. I don't care.
Fucking hell, okay. It's the way he just accidentally dropped that last nuclear part. Listen, whatever. So what I'm going to say is this. One of the problems here is people maybe even Twistzz, I don't know. People will always take it personally if you criticise their job. In this case, he's obviously embraced it. I'm going to be the leader, it's my team, etc. There's two things to say about this, right? One is this. Oh, I've no doubt, listen, it's an American org. They're going to tell you, Americans are so good at saying, they're like, oh, yeah, oh, I believe in you, man. Yeah, it's so good. They'll tell you everything at the beginning. That's awesome. Until the day they fire you. And then they'll go, oh, listen, we're going to have to, I don't think our vision aligns. And, we're going to have to go a separate way. And that's when you'll find out they didn't fuck with your plan. So the problem is, as I've sort of hinted on this show, Team Liquid didn't really have a choice in this scenario because, as pointed out by Zews, the whole super team sort of was about getting Twistzz in the first place and him not in the first place going to Vitality. Then when the team collapses and Cadian has to go, yes, that's because someone has to leave so that someone can be in this Cadian versus Twistzz battle. And Twistzz still, because he was fragging out in that team with Cadian, remember, is still necessarily a team that actually top Euro teams like Vitality want. They could have come for him again. He could have gone. Well, the problem with that is that's a very intelligent move socially by Twistzz there. That's called a bargaining chip. Tell you what, I'll stay in Liquid. Yeah, I'll stay in North America. But, I have a few requests. I'm the in-game leader. Maybe you can stay. I've got a few things. Canadians is out. Zews, just met him on a rooftop. He's gone too. He may as well jump. Yeah, there you go.
I got Game of Thrones, dude. I got Game of Thrones.
You did. Exactly. You thought you had everyone behind your back, and he turned up with the gold cloaks, and he'd already paid them all. Exactly, the Lannisters.
But that ends up being my biggest, because on the professional side, I can't even be mad because it really is on the professional. I get it, and I was I'm sure I'm out of the meta. Things like that. The whole I wasn't rough on Cadian thing, that's bullshit, just by the way. Because ask Casper, I'm the only one who'd go to him. I'm like, you're an ogre. You need to learn how to talk to people, do this shit.
Right.
No one would do shit. But it's kind of life. But on the personal side, that fucking sucks. Because like I said, I did consider the kid a little brother. Was like hiring him in the beginning. And if you look at the videos, like I came back because of you, all that shit. It's like, and you fucking throw me under the bus. And in the call, I got told that I was collateral. I'm just gonna toss you as collateral. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying to me? Like, are you stupid? Like, that's okay. Screw it. Since I'm here just doing shit, love the jersey, right? Last day on the team, Dallas.
It's the Duncan jersey because people can't see it. Yeah, it's like Luka jersey.
It's a Luka. So they were going. There was gonna be a Lakers game. There was gonna be a Mavs game, and I think Lakers game at the arena. Right. We were at the events. He's like, hey, I fucking love basketball. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Gets the whole team hyped up. He buys 3 tickets for him, Robs, and Kerrigan. His card doesn't go through. He asks us to pay for the fucking thing and acts like it's natural.
What?
Okay.
Dude.
Okay. Listen, he's cooking. I like it. He's cooking. Right, here's what I would say, though.
Fuck?
Yeah, and then while at the game, I'm like, yo, can you get me a jersey? He's like, couldn't find you one, so I got you this. I like this even better. So there's a little nice taste to it.
Okay. Because here's the problem. The reason why, I understand actually why Liquid, if you want to keep Twistzz, who by the way is one of the best players in the world when he's on his game, you had to do this basically. So when they did this, the problem you have is this. Twistzz might get offended. Spoiler, every great player I know who ever did this got offended. When the greatest players of all time become IGL, they go, how dare you question me? It's like, no, I'm not questioning you as a player. You're one of the greatest of all time, but you haven't fucking done the job. It's why I criticise Taz. I love Taz, a player. I'm waiting to see as a coach, is he one of the all-time great coaches? It's not like he's working in GamerLegion. He's got fucking Nico Monesi in his teams. Like, I expect a lot. And here's the problem if you're Twistzz. When you actually get people into your team, like Naf's still really good, you yourself are really good, you get fucking nerds. Listen, that's not a development roster. You don't get to develop as an IGL. You need to be world-class today because that team deserves a world-class. You deserve a world-class IGL. So if you yourself aren't the world-class IGL, get the fuck out of your own way, bro. Or, you know what? Humble yourself, go to complexity, be the in-game leader there, and once you revolutionise that team or wildcard, I'm all in, mate. Because right now, I don't see it. Because I agree with you.
But again, Duncan, again, like, it's not even about going to those teams. One of the issues is like, it's so many issues with we can't play with Liege. I won't play with Donk because I don't know if he's gonna be good. We didn't even try Donk because no, I wouldn't play with him. Like, well, no, who can we get? I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I don't like South Americans. They're lazy. I don't like they're like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, what the hell do we have to do? I'm working with some LeBron James at times.
By the way, did you hear that, guys? I didn't say it. You know, you were all like, why can't Elise just rejoin Liquid? I didn't say it. Did I say it? I heard it in the call, though. Anyway, So the other thing I'll
John, by the
say,
way.
yeah,
John,
the other thing I'll
kick
say is
ass in
this.
FaZe.
The other problem is I actually have mad sympathy for everyone who was a great player who tried this role. Alu, Shocks, Coldzera, Twistzz, keep going down the line. The star player, Nico, the star players that all tried to be IGL. Here's the problem. You actually can't tell them initially. You're not going to be able to do it, mate, because they haven't tried yet. It's not until they do it that they realize. I've always told Maui this great quote, which is that Valde actually tried being an IGL, if you remember, in North after MSL was kicked out. And he even came, I think, on one of these shows, might have been Counterpoints, I forget. And when on this show, he said this line that I thought was the perfect line. He said, I didn't know MSL had a system until I started calling. And then I was like, oh shit, that was the system. Like, holy fuck, like I didn't even know there was one. I was like a fish in water. I thought that's just how every team worked. And he quickly learned, like, fuck. So I have to do all my shit and that. I thought it was just, make a snappy call and keep shooting people. So the problem with all have is that not until they've all done it for at least 6 months, usually a failed major, that they all go kind of like have the come to Jesus moment and go, maybe I shouldn't do it. Wait a minute. I'm going to tank. Your kid, I never figured this out. I'm going to tank my own game if I do this. I should probably actually get back to being a sick fragger. Worry about that. And let's bring in someone who can do this already. Let's bring someone proven in. So I actually do think
it's so much fucking hard work. It's so hard work being IGL. Jesus Christ.
Remember, if you have that game that ends at 11 at night because of the triple overtime and the break and the play, then if you have the game that's like 1 p.m., you enjoy getting 8 hours sleep. You're not getting 8 hours sleep. You and the fucking coach are up all night long watching those demos. And then, by the way, you're playing FaZe and Carrigan's like, haha, be an awful shame if someone fucked up that veto and you prepared all those maps. And like, well, brilliant. That was 6 hours I could have been fucking sleeping, mate. No, the stress levels are insane to be IGL. And this is the problem, Zeus. I agree with you. The number one thing I want from my IGL is accountability. I actually want, at the end, even if everything goes wrong and everyone else fucked up, for you to go, hey, it was when I called. Yeah, go on.
No, it's like, that's exactly it. Like, I remember there was something like that. Casper wanted to go up. It's like, do the interview. That's the IGL has to be there for the good and the bad. And that's great. Probably the biggest part that I think he's going to have hardship was with the bad. Not getting emotional with, but like, if we lose, like I built a company and people shit on me for crypto, and it was one of the few crypto companies that actually wasn't about abusing people. I was trying to open org, but I didn't raise enough money and I gave them money back. So I had a failed business, which I poured tons of money into to do something good. But I had a lot of people that worked for me. And when that failed, the first thing that I had to do was get up with a straight face and tell them that it's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out, find a way. Tried for some more time. It was like, right. And keep things going. That it's not. You think that's how I felt? Like, fuck no. I wanted to like crumble there. It's like lost all the money, lost all the time. It didn't work out. I'm a failure at this. But no, you got to keep a straight face. So it's not about yourself. So like, that's what I want to see from Twistzz, but that's what I want to see from everyone else. And I feel that in CS, fuck Twistzz as an IGL, fuck everything, like in that sense, all IGLs, we need to move to a system. We really do, just changing a little bit to where it's like Blade. Blade has the great system. It's what I had in Liquid at that time. You need to have a coach and a general manager that understand and work together and aren't doing the crazy buyouts because this business is unsustainable. CS is one of the few markets that's actually profitable, and orgs are still losing money. 98% of them run red because they don't know what the fuck they are doing. They used to pour tons of money into influencer, VFC money, just buying all the wrong shit. Let's get into every esport. Let's please everyone. Media's like, it's upside down right now. Get structure. You're getting the first generation. Fuck Zeus. You're getting the first generation of actual athletes who have been living here 25 years, not just watching, not just coaching, but living through it, seeing it all. Some of these guys, look at Kerrigan, is smart as fuck. Get this guy, pay him whatever he's worth when he decides to give up his job to lead your organization to huge success, because that is the secret to doing this. It's so much bigger. We need to stop focusing on the small shit in front of our nose and just caring about ourselves. That's leadership. In an IGL point, that's where it starts. Coaching and playing a small one compared to the big business, but message goes a long way. The skill set is transferable.
And I'll just throw this out there. The reason why I'm still critical and I haven't yet bought into the Twistzz anglers, first of all, they've never done anything in the playoffs, ever. You can go look at all the playoffs, it's non-existent. The group stage merchants with all the lineups, they can get it cooking, they can get a map off someone, they can drop a 20 bomb. The problem I have is this. When I looked at their team, I think this is what saved them last season. Twistzz himself frags, but I'm sorry, he looks like he calls like a secondary caller. He calls off his position and his play. I've even seen him just hold an angle and the whole team just throws to a halt. He gets like his kill and then he moves off and suddenly the team's moving again. It's like, bro, that's not IGL, and I'm sorry. Like, even if people say fragging IGL, they don't really mean you just do the game that you want. And then as you say, listen, Naf winning you some clutches isn't you IGLing, bro. He would do that in every team. And that he even did that with fucking Cadian. And I'm agreeing with you, Twistzz. He wasn't that great at calling, didn't have a good playbook. And then finally, that ultimate brief span where he just farmed all those group stages before people caught on and how he played, that covered a lot. That masked a lot of like fucking CT frags, a lot of T-sides. He was just shooting people when you were doing the peak together onto the corner. He was just getting the free kill onto the person. And that made it look like, oh, it's just all working. Now that you've got Nerds in, I think Nerds is fucking cracked. So if you just have, by the way, just having Nerds, Twistzz and Naf, bro, I should already be talking about a team that's in all the semis. Like, we should be fucking them up. Yeah. Like, what are we talking about? Even if the ultimate guy's not that sick, JKS, by the way, he's not fragging, but he's still JKS. He'll still hold a position, still experience. He's not fucking complaining. So actually, this is the roster where I have to see it. If I don't see it here, then look, you can stay. You could be the staff rifler with Nerds, but I'll tell you what, get me a fucking IGL. Well, by the way, even if this hurts people's feelings, even if it's Tuxie, even if it's someone of that caliber, they'll run a fucking proper team. They'll actually, by the way, they'll give you space. He just gave bloody Nico and MonolZ all the space they wanted for like 6 months or something. So, no, that can work. I'm with you. Okay, that's a pretty epic point. That was sort of like a secret interview crammed in with a tell-all session confessional. And also, he did at one point in time just like throw in a fucking word that just went, ooh! Anyway, it wasn't even me that said any of that shit. Okay. So, Maui, what is your bad point?
Mine is, I mean, I wanted to talk about Liquid, but we definitely did that. So I'll do the I guess the bad here is just the way in which the G2 discussions are going right now, and how many red herrings that are seemingly entering the discussion at all points in time when we are discussing what's going wrong with this roster, what's going on. I've posted my takes and like kind of my initial feelings, which have since changed about a few of the people involved with this roster. But like, seeing G2 crash out in the way that they did in 12th place at Katowice is obviously well beneath what they were supposed to. And I don't even know if you can really say that they had the hardest draw necessarily. Like, they lost to VP, and yes, I just praised VP, but it is through beating G2. Then they barely beat Falcons, like barely. Like they probably even should have lost that, but they made a surprisingly decent comeback on the last map. And then they lost to FaZe. And overall, I'm just gonna say this: like, I think the discussions about G2 are getting almost thrown off because of the pressure that every single person faces now when they talk about Snacks and Taz or anything like that. Your mentions just get so ridiculously flooded by Polish slurs that I feel like people are laying off on what they really think nowadays, and they're trying to like find other issues with them. But it's like, okay, I think Taz is actually a legitimately solid coach now. I'm not going to say he's like really good, but I think he's like a C. Like, I'll give him a C basically. But to think anything other than Snacks is probably, for tier 1 IGLs, like a D in terms of like tier list, then I think that's just crazy. I think that's just insane. So I think that my bad point is that people are getting thrown off the trail of what is really happening that's bad on G2 still, because of almost like social media pressure. Yeah, that's my take.
What do you think,
all right,
Zews?
I mean, follow along with that. G2 was a disappointment. I did watch all their matches in it. Like, they felt off. They haven't found their flow. I mean, I talked about Taz a little bit. I do think he's a solid coach who's getting, again, experience, right? He's same process. He's gonna learn a lot through it. But I do think he's a leader. And I don't know exactly how Snacks will be as an IGL leader, right? I do know he's a big personality, but he also seems to evolve. But I agree on where he is as a talent right now and for what G2 stands, right? Like, when you talk about pressure, G2 is like, it's synonymous with high level pressure. Everyone expects them to do well. So that's why I think the community reaction is what it is, and it's true. Malbs, I praise him a lot on his mechanical skill because it's flashy, but as well, it's clear he has his mechanics are, while god tier in reflex, his decision making still needs tweaking. His communication there is probably going to still need tweaking. This right, so it goes like that. MonteCristo, Jesus, that kid is just speak his name. Yeah, he's the franchise boy right now. He and Donk are the main guys. Don't even need to say. So when you have him on the team, everyone's going to expect you to win. And Heavy God, I do think he's good, but like, this is inside info, but he was one of the players that I looked into when like I didn't know I was out on my way out of Liquid, but like on the way out, things like that, fit Skull's role. But the request that I saw for him and what he was already being offered at the time from Cloud9 is bonkers. Like it's a crazy contract. So I don't know what the pressure he's gonna feel inside from G2 in regards to what he's gonna bring is gonna be, and even like what the other players feel, because the players happen that those stupid things, right? They get mad comparing themselves to whose dick is bigger. It's just life. So with G2, I do think that unfortunately they go down from my S tier. They are like A- right now. I'd put them in. They're gonna be like if GamerLegion plays to their potential and G2, that's where they should be facing each other to see who's gonna try to maybe get a top 6 through 8, something like that. Right now, I don't have too much confidence in them. And as Duncan mentioned, Nico, man, you're gonna learn how hard it is to substitute that guy. It's Nico. He's too good. Like it's the leadership, it's the position, it's the clutching, it's the mid-round calls and helping and everything. Like the dedicate, it's everything. So yes, I'm a good friend of Nico, so maybe a little biased there.
Sure.
Take that with a grain of salt, but so G2 is in a fickle position right now for me.
Yeah, actually, what's funny is I had as one of my other points later, so I'll just incorporate it here. I actually had as my ugly point, but I'll change it. It's all good. The ugly point was going to be MauI's isn't Nico, and I specifically was going to pick ugly because it's actually the fact that people are going to treat him like he is. Like what they're going to do is they saw last year, we're on T side, he was a fucking revelation. He was sick. He was shooting everyone in the head. By the way, CT side, he obviously didn't have his spot, so I never blamed him for that. In fact, it's why they've been called a role cell for accurately pointing out that he would be gate kept by playing stupid fucking roles, not the fragging ones. But since the whole plan, and by the way, I don't just guess at this shit, G2 themselves magically, after I kept saying for months, went, we'll probably give MauI's Nico's roles. Maybe I know a fucking thing. It's not my first rodeo, boys. I don't guess at these things. I have to guess because I can't tell you I fucking know, can I? The beauty of it is, it's like, as long as you get the info gets out there, the info gets out there. The problem is this. It's a good idea to give him Nico's roles because then he can develop. We've made this point many times before. That's how Frozen developed after Ops left. That's how freaking, Config developed after Kirby left and AZ left. And people get the other role that they want and they start to grow into it. The problem with this is even reasonable growth won't be to end up as Nico. There's only one Nico and then there's Donk. There's these two aliens and everyone else is like a good rifler. They're good for now. You know what? Axal looked like he was going to be the next Nico for a while. How the fuck did that work out? Exertion was supposed to be like the fucking mini Donk. How's that working out? Certain people, you saw it even in Falcons, by the way. Nico still does that thing where he does that like controlled, like taking a peek slowly, and every time it's a 2-bullet clean to the head. Both bullets. I want to explain a very brief mechanic in Counter-Strike. When you, a fan, shoot 2 bullets, you aim at the head and fire and the 2 bullets go up, don't they? Nico pulls down and both bullets go in the head. Like, that sounds easy. That is the hardest shit in the world to do. Loads of people can hit the first bullet. Loads of people can spray afterwards. By the way, people like Donk spray afterwards. To actually do the clean 2 bullets, like I've always said, people who are top pros who don't like Nico, listen, I guess it was like Simple said it publicly, but he was the only one with the balls to do it. They used to think Nico was showboating when he did those 1-taps. You know, when he'd do like that insane clip, like tap, tap, bitch. It isn't. Like, I actually am telling you, he not only just knows when he hits, like Steph Curry, and he can just look away essentially, but he does that shit where like his brain, before that even comes up on the kill, can just register that he got the kill. MauI's isn't that. No one is. So actually my problem is, we're going to really give MauI's is going to be fucking ruined if we make him have to be Nico. He doesn't have to be, and he shouldn't have to be in this team either, by the way. You look at the roster, this is where like Heavy God's doing some fragging. Monte's still really good. He just fell off at the end of the event is all. You go look, Hunter's still in there. Now, I do notice everyone, Hunter must have the greatest trick Hunter ever pulled was making everyone forget he exists in G2. Everyone blamed fucking JKS, then they blamed Nexa, then they blamed Hugsy, now they're going to blame fucking MauI's, they're going to blame Snacks, they're going to blame, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then even worse, in interviews, they'll just be like, yeah, he actually calls like CT Pistons. What are you even talking about? Sir, what are you talking about? Can I pause? Can I just fucking get like, is that like, does he put that deductible on the invoice? Does he get 18,000 a month for calling all the CT pistol rounds? Like, you're fucking up 10 cents for the fragging and minus, I'll pay you $20 for keeping me on the team. What's going on here? I don't know. Like, as far as I can tell, I have never looked up the surnames. Is Hunter actually Pekka's cousin? Like, what is there more Kovacs in the world that I don't know? Was there a marriage somewhere? Is it like those like fucking nobility in Europe where they got married through the bastard child? I don't know what happened, but fucking hell, this guy can just, He can walk on water, mate. He never gets kicked out of teams. And in fact, it's even inferred, and this will be nightmare fuel if you're a G2 fan, it's even implied in interviews, one day they maybe see him as the IGL of G2, and that's maybe why he's kept around, and that they think he's going to transition. So I think this whole team, the pressure that's going to be on, first of all, Snacks, because he's in the spotlight, but then mainly on actually MongoZ to be the best player in the world in what I think is a fucking dysfunctional team, looks bad on T-side. And MauisnakE, if we treat him like he's supposed to be Nico, and I like some of it is NA fans just going too far and putting someone at the top already. The problem is it will always be different to be the like third star who doesn't have to carry and get to carry than when it's like, you know what they do to Simple and Nico and dude, I do it to Zews. It's like, okay, Zews, you're in the semi-finals. Yeah, but the others had bad game. Yo, Zews, fucking go off, mate. Come on, show me what. Show me. You're the best. Show me now. That you can't do that to MauisnakE. He's essentially, guys, not even done 1 year at actual tier 1 level for me. M80 playing EPLs isn't tier 1 lands. Like, he has had like 8 months or something. So I give this guy a massive pass, but I agree.
Yeah.
It is bad what G2 looks like right now. They actually were one of those teams where you looked at the lineup and you were like, this at a minimum should be like a playoff team. You know, they should at least be mixing it up. He's still got MongoZ, but it looks rough. And by the way, they could have lost that game to Falcons. They could have been last place at Katowice. Yep. That's real. Yeah.
So, like, I'm just thinking here. MauisnakE, yes, he's had very little time in tier 1, but how bad is the scouting in Brazil? Because MauisnakE was on team 1 like 5 years ago, and no one remembered he was alive until he went to M80 and then outside. That's insane. And I didn't think of that, but yes, to your point, I think it's very valid. Like, if the community thinks he's going to be Nico, that's going to be too much pressure on him because, yes, being the first chart fragger, the one that your team relies on and the community relies on is bad. G2 actually fucked up in putting it out like that. We're already thinking of the replacement for Nico. So, like, they put the crosshair on their own thing.
Yeah. And they even were like, maybe we didn't even want to keep Nico. What are you saying? What are you saying out loud, bro? What?
and one, this is just a theory that I have. We'll see how it plays out. But, like, a lot of people, like MauisnakE is one of those guys where his playistic style right now, because CS2 is a new game and Donk is fragging out and just swinging, he's one of those guys who's taking those wide swings. He's taking a lot of duels, and he's really good mechanically and really good fragger. He's doing it, but Donk is the #1 player in the world right now. If there's one play style that's going to be studied, it's the wide swing, right? Like, there's one mechanic that every generational player or team is bringing, things like that. And I believe that the first step in CS2 is CS2 wide swing. This is the most obvious one, is the one that's going to be perfected to the most. How good will a MauisnakE be in that play? Like, if we're asking him to be Donk right now, when he's on top of the game, it's hard. Imagine when they figure out that aspect of the game, which it seems is the most heavily relied on weapon right now, which is fragging out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. My ugly point is short and sweet.
Or bad
point, sorry. My bad point is a simple one. Even though you're all watching the MongolZ do it again, they're tearing through the tournament, they're looking fucking straight fire, they're in the playoffs. By the way, they've never done anything in playoffs yet, but they're in the playoffs. It's a big LAN. Believe it or not, this is the bad point. It's a two-parter. One, they actually, I think, are going to be better than they are now. Not in the playoffs, though. Two, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. And the reason why I say bad is because a lot of people, they haven't actually made enough of this on the broadcast, in my opinion. If you go and look up, it's on Just 2, let me have a look here. It's on one of the Just 2 websites. Look up MongolZ confirm withdrawal from Blast Bounty Season 1. One of the reasons why MongolZ withdrew from Blast Bounty is because at the end of December, Senzu revealed that he had an arm injury. Senzu was their star fragger. He was like the fucking MauisnakE of their team, if people don't know. He was the main fragging power and the crazy T-side player. He has looked really off this tournament. Even though they're doing awesome, he has been way off his game. What's made them awesome at this tournament is the Mauisnake guy, the really young guy, the last 3 months, he's like twice as good. It's crazy. And 9-10's had some pretty big games. Everyone else basically is playing great. But unfortunately, Senzu's actually having a really bad tournament. So unfortunately, look, if he has an injury, I give him a pass. You know what? I'll wait and see. But I actually think with the Mauisnake angle, bro, maybe this means in the future, though, they're actually going to be for real. Maybe they're actually going to be a team that's in semis and can beat, because they look like this close even now to beating the top teams.
I agree with you. So on the injury, I saw it, but today on the was rewatching some of the matches and things like that. And one of those bank segments, they showed him, and he just arrived. He has like his entire
it's all bandaged.
Wrist.
Yeah,
it's all bandaged up. So passed. And so I'm like I said, I made that ranking here for myself, right? Trying to organize things. And MongolZ right now is a team that I actually rate pretty highly, right? They are pretty close to the Furia and Astralis of the world, actually even higher right now. They're closer to G2 above Virtus Pro. Yeah. So I agree with you. I actually like I saw your take, so it's a little bit copy in that sense that they're gonna have one of the top teams soon. But I do think that them and Eternal Fire, if we're looking at form and the teams who are gelling
Yeah.
most together, like ignore Spirit and Navi, which are the S plus tiers, which have the most structure, firepower, and everything like that. Those are the guys that I'm looking at, or like they came in fire. If they're peaking early, that could be a thing. But right now, they are hot. I could definitely see them, like not at this term, I don't think because of an injury, but on a regular basis, I could see them being a playoff team. What I said Liquid wouldn't do, I think they could be that team that will be making it to a top 6, who makes it to that semifinal, like at least half the time.
Okay.
I would say that it's tough. I like that you brought up Eternal Fire because actually, maybe I'll get to that one first. Actually, yeah, I feel like Eternal Fire, whereas like their best player Xantares is a much more reliable known quantity. For me, I think the MongolZ play better team CS actually, but I feel like the players work more as a unit, whereas Eternal Fire they do like Eternal Fire actually play good team CS also, but I feel like the game planning or the read of it, actually feel like Blitz is a better in-game leader than Madger. That's kind of how I would put it today. But for interesting bad point, you bring that up. I mean, it's kind of like a prediction wrapped up into it that they just aren't going to keep doing well because until Senzu actually gets back to full form, it's actually almost, I would almost spin it. I'd say like, yeah, it's a bad point because they're probably not going to do well at this because Senzu's injured. But at the same time, for them to still make playoffs, to beat Liquid, to beat GamerLegion, and I don't know if I would say they took a real fight to Navi or anything like that, but still, yeah, like one of the maps was like,
Right? Map one,
okay.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, like one map was like kind of competitive, I guess. I don't know, not really. I guess it's just impressive that they can kind of rely on the fact that they win by committee, as opposed to like, oh wow, their best player Senzu is playing like 30% worse, maybe even 40% worse than he was last year, and they're still in the playoffs at an event of this caliber. Like, good on them. And I'm glad that even though they didn't show up to the bounty, they did for this one, even though Senzu's still injured and still are playing well. I think like I'm gonna be really curious about the MongolZ this season too, because to me they are a top 8 team. They definitely are a top 8 team, and Mazinho is having more pop-off potential in my eyes than he did 6 months ago. And if Senzu is going to get back into form, that's going to be pretty scary for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jinx, but like every time I remember a wrist injury in CS, it's been like one of the greats with Olaf and Guardian, right? I'm old school, so don't. So I hope it's nothing like that, but I see it as a bad point for them right here. But at the same time, I think that they're gonna be feeling like, hey, the guy has his hands completely fucked, and we're still doing like this. Imagine what we can do. For Maui's point, like again, I'm not gonna be claiming to be watching every single match. I'm trying to watch when I can right now, right? Kind of enjoying my life, getting back to shape. But I got the feeling like specifically, it's more specifically on this too, like Eternal Fire. They're play off each other. I feel like their communication with the players on how they're closing the spaces and like kind of like funneling the guy from the back for the flank and for maintaining and things like that was amazing. So that my very superficial take off the last match that I watched from them, I felt the opposite. I felt that Eternal Fire was super structured, communicating on the default and things like that. And when I looked at the MongolZ, they were really fragging. They were fast. They were explosive. Like even the op was kind of in your face flicks all the time. It reminds me of a Kenny S. You have MZ pulling rounds like on those after plans, just like swinging from round to round. It's a little bit more chaotic, but I remember when we won the first major, our first match after was against Chinese team, and we're like, okay, this is gonna be easy. We got our faces wrecked off. Like, you have no idea the insane skill that these Asian teams have. It's a different school of CS, right? Like, it's very, very in your face explosive. And I did kind of copy that into that Liquid roster, like when we improvised Nitro as half AK, half Opper, so that we could do T sides dynamic, which I think Liquid could do now. But like, that roster has a lot of malleability, and they're young, right? And as a whole, and their coach as well has been there, what, 9-10 years? I think it's Halle, or I forget his
Mara.
name. Mara, yeah, the guy. He's been like, I remember him since the start of my career.
All right.
So as well, like, I'm gonna take a gander that if someone's been there, he has the respect, and like he has at least the stability. They're not gonna have the nonsense and craziness around. So on Thorin's bad point, I'm going to take a positive spin. I actually predict that they will maintain themselves as a top 8, and I hope and do believe that they will be a top 6 team by the middle of this year. I'm going to put.
No, I'm with you. I think there's fire. The funny thing is, though, I sort of know what both of you mean by that, though. Like, for example, here's the difference. I'll just do quickly that brief comparison you did of Eternal Fire and MongolZ. I agree. I actually think MongolZ is one of the best teams. There's actually a key quantum. You know what we said earlier about the Cadian plan? They do that on T-side. They instantly attack the second the call is made. That's why I give a comparison. If anyone knows StarCraft, it's a concept called a timing attack. You just decide on this time, no matter what we go. And when they go, they fucking go. No one does that thing that even top Europeans do. I'm going to pull back, actually. I don't think he's going to get the kill or like, I'm saving the AWP, like the James shit. Like, there's none of that. They just go straight in. If they die, they die. But I also do think that they look like some of that is like set up. Like, those aren't just like fucking random attacks. Like, but that's essentially, that's what they want to do. Whereas Eternal Fire, here's the difference. I agree when it's flowing. First of all, it looks like a lot of people have like a fucking voice in that team to me and sort of know. I think they give Woxic a lot of space. I think absolutely they let Xantares basically do. He decides when he fucking peaks me. He doesn't go for. He's not being microed. He's like the Nico of Turkey. So those players do that. The problem is where I think Maui's talking about is when they fall down though and there's no fragging, they don't have that crazy like calling style from Be That Week. You know, you break a game down and take a section. They don't have that sort of like high level super IGL angle. So I think both. By the way, both teams though, especially when you consider where G2 is right now. No one knows what's going on with FaZe. That Falcons is a mess. Fucking Astralis is non-existent. Liquid isn't on the bot. Bro, this is their chance to feast. They can just become like top 5 teams. They can be like 5th and 4th. That's real. Like there's a reason why if you've been watching, I'd be betting fucking on Eternal Fire all the time because they look like they can beat almost every single team in the world. By the way, I almost saw them beat fucking Spirit in the past. So I think they could actually go head to head with anyone. Especially by the way, this isn't even the one from last year. The Jota guy carried a whole fucking series himself at this tournament, and he was just supposed to be some guy on vaguely on people's radars. So no, they're straight fire, mate. They're straight fire. Right. What is your ugly point then, Zews?
My ugly point is kind of like the first one. It's a bit more generic, but this is more even for debate on your guys' experience, right? Like you've been in the scene now. So a feeling that I got is a lot in my head is comparing old times to new, right? I don't know if I'm in that middle age crisis and things like that, but to make a headline out of this, the vibe I got from the pro scene, the playing scene, right, is things have gotten socially awkward between, like, you don't have that festivity between the players, the essence of Counter-Strike. Like, I've been playing this game since 2001. It was LAN centers. It was even back then, I'd miss school or something to go to a LAN center.
Sure.
But I'd be friends with, I'd be with the other teams talking, hang out after, you share ideas. Like, when we were the best team in the world, people would come up to us like, what do you do? Like, what's going on in your head? And like, you share. And that's how the game evolved so fast. And that's how you make friendships. Like, I didn't see my mom for like in the last 7 years that I was working. I saw my mom maybe 40 days out of the year, something like that. The rest was with everyone else, right? And I feel like the scene has gone, I don't know if it's the professionalizing because, now like we have all these young players, which was my good point, right? We're having these 16, 17, 18-year-olds. But now everyone who's kind of pro at that age hasn't had a social life, and it's very professional. And like, so sitting in front of PC, sponsors, business, these guys are your rival. Everything's gotten separated. So it's not good there. And then when we look at the financial side, like I said, at least from what I saw, it's most of the orgs, we have orgs that are dropping out, right? The orgs are dropping out. These players are socially awkward, so we're not getting good content and storylines. Like, please, for the love of God, don't think this is an offense because I think that kid's amazing. But like, Magix is one of the biggest personalities in our scene right now. We used to have Taz, Pasha, all these things. Like, these guys would move crowds and mountains and things like that. And I'm sorry if it's real, but it's how I feel. Like, I want to be entertained. Right now, I'm a pure spectator watching this shit. So when I was playing, I didn't get the vibe from the players that these were people that I'd want to mix with. When I'm watching, I'm not getting most of these like, I still root for, there still are, but it's like, what's happened to us? And I'm asking this because I remember 6 years ago, I was against it, but it's like, I remember Duncan and Richard be like, oh, esports is dying behind the scenes and shit like that. It's rough. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's looking great. But now when I hear, it's like, I hear the casters, they're still having fun together. They still like each other, even though it's still competitive, right? There's still, even in the caster world from the friends that I have, there's still shit going on with blocking each other. I don't want to do this event. The finals mine, Bardolph, whatever the hell that thing was. It was like, the world is like, it's not about money. Like, I'm a guy who almost died, you know, fuck. Like, I had a heart attack. I didn't mention this before. I can mention it now. Like, part of my depression now, I have a fucking cyst in my lungs, like a 3 centimeter. I thought it was cancer. I did a biopsy. It's not. So it's like, I'm over dealing with all this shit and seeing things, and we're all focusing on the wrong things. I'm focusing on the personal side of things, but as a community, like, I'm 30, because I'm old as fuck. I'm 37, turning 38. Like, CS has been a part of my life 25 years. That's 2/3 of my very old life, like, with CS. And I don't want to see us lose the essence of what makes us a great community, but I feel we're losing ourselves. And it could be me just being a little bit depressive with all this shit. So I want your guys' thoughts. But my horrible point is that, like, what the fuck happened that no one has an opinion? Everyone's trying to be social media friendly. No one's genuine. No one shares anything. It's not, you don't share with the public. You don't share among your peers. And the business is fucked up. It's like, what's our future? Are we destined to be screwed?
There's a couple of reasons for this, I would say. I think there's like the things that I've identified are like, I think people have less of a personality nowadays than they did 9 years ago, probably 10 years ago plus, following this space, is like, because social media is really driving so many, like, people honestly have this really bad relationship with social media in my eyes. A lot of players, for example, where when they were on the come up, they got so much praise from social media, and so they kind of just allow social media to dictate too much of their emotions. That's my take. Is that I think that because when they were succeeding, rising, and nobody had expectations of them, they could go to social media, they'd have a few fans saying nice things to them, chirping at them, just saying like, you're great, everything's good. But then once you actually get into the tier 1 space, everybody that has too strong of an opinion and loses, then they just get taken down so hard. They let it affect them so much. And the problem is that, like, social media to a lot of people is like their end all be all for what they think they need to do. Like, you have to adhere to this rule of conduct on social media where everything you do is so neutral almost that if you ever step out of line of what is perceived like right, you're going to get ratioed, or people are going to tell you you're stupid, or people are going to they're just going to come down so hard on you. And because you found so much of your satisfaction in social media and I was going to say gratisfaction, but you're all like these gratifying mentions that you're getting, it hurts you when it's negative on the other side. And a lot of people need to learn that, and I'm almost glad that I grew up at the time when social media was starting, but it wasn't like a foundational part of my life, because you just kind of said shit with your chest and you didn't really mind. And if someone said some shit to you, you just kind of backed up who you were as a person. And I don't know, you could think of that as like machismo or being a man or some shit like that. But it's just not letting random fucking strangers on social media dictate who I am as a person, and finding more comfort and satisfaction and confidence in who you are. Just because you're going to carry yourself through life and everything you've done to carry yourself through life has gotten to you to where you are, why are you letting social media dictate what you say and don't say? And that's why, even though I find JL and Thorin's back and forth to be quite refreshing and funny, because you guys are just so unashamedly yourselves. And even if you go at each other, you're not going to stop being yourselves. And I think that's why JL has actually become one of the biggest streamers in CS. And every time he boots that shit up, it's 40,000 viewers nowadays, because he's killing it as a player, and he's just so unashamedly himself, and he's never backed down from that. I clowned him for a long time that it was dude, you bring up your girlfriend every fucking interview, and it's almost exhausting, but he still does it. He still does it. He doesn't let it get to him. And I think that is what we need more of in this space, because some people just can't turn it off. I feel like I'll even use someone on his team as an example on the other side. I think Wonderful probably let social media get to him too much when he's they were showing vlogs, and he's this dude is just doom scrolling mid-series in a fucking grand final. It's dude, are you seriously reading or looking at stats? What are you doing on your phone right now?
And by the way, you know this, Maui, there's talent doing that too. There's talent between maps, reading all your hate comments on Reddit and getting bombed out and doing the worst performance. That's real.
Trust me,
it's real.
Trust me, I'm in these green rooms. I mean, I try to segment it. I do read a lot of this stuff, but I'll do it after an event. Or I love to read what people say about what we're saying, after we release a podcast, because it's that's great. But if I'm live on air, I having HLTV forums like have like a little like gateway to my mind is probably the most wholly detrimental thing I can do to my own live broadcast capability. So Twitter as well. I have let that happen before, like where I've just scrolled Twitter. I'm like, fuck, why am I doing this right now? Like I'm in the middle of, like I'm between segments. I shouldn't be doing this. So yes, it gets to everybody, but it's just knowing like you need to put the phone down. Like honest to God, like, dude, Apple has created, screen time lock features on your phone. Fucking use them. Like, you just use them. If you can't handle it and you can't put your phone down yourself, that's why I think, like, wrapping back to your point, Zeus, like, I think that's kind of, like, people have, unfortunately, put themselves in a chokehold that is social media.
They're trying to please everybody. It could be.
Yep.
I mean, it makes... Try to please everybody and please nobody kind of thing, right? It's cliche. But
The problem is...
I just thought it was fucked.
It makes everybody finish.
The problem is, basically, nobody can tank the hate. It gets to everyone. By the way, if I read it all, it'd get to me. I don't read it anymore. I'm just...
No, like I said, it got to me in this break here. Like, I'm saying this, but it's like, at least I'm still going to say my shit in the end, right? Like, but again, same school as Maui. What I say is what I believe in. I'm not owner of reason. I expect it back and forth at least,
But here's the problem. People still don't get. They still think, right, that I was trying to be the most popular, well-loved person where every fan would go, I agree with your analysis. It's excellent. And you are the best. No, I've never even gone for that. The whole time I've understood, partly because, by the way, because of some of my fuck-ups, I'm never going to be the most popular. Certain fan bases hate me and always will and will always go back to that. So what you have to do is lean into it. And I knew, right, your time to become. I watched loads of wrestling growing up. I used to love it when they came and you'd go, because I'd be booing them like, oh, fucking asshole. Oh, look, they're hitting him with the chair and holding him down. This is unfair. Fight him one-on-one, you coward. What are you doing? And be like, oh, yeah, then I win the belt. Like, oh, I hate this guy so much. I was like, you know what? Time to be the heel. And people never got that I was doing that, bro. And one of the reasons why it works is because, as you just said there, what I realized I could do is... it means that no longer does the actual fucking game have to be the entertainment. If the game is amazing, go and watch when I'm watching like Team Liquid win the Grand Slam. It's just all about history. It's all like fucking, they're one of the all-time great teams. I think the skill level man for man's the best. But when it's a shit game, or when like, fucking some little underdog team's doing a run and they want someone to like fucking bristle against, then that's me versus them. And if you think of some of the rivalries you've lost, it's me. It's like the Brazilian fans versus me. It's fucking... By the way, not only that one. There's a load of fan base that... If you don't know that, the first time I ever met Zeus... The first time I ever met Zeus, he'd just become a world champion. He turned to me and he just said, sometimes I really hate you, but sometimes I really love you too. And then we had a drink. That's literally how we met. That is the first thing and I even remember thinking, fair play. I've always said, believe it or not, a lot of people won't know this, that team, all right, a slight asterisk next to Fur, because he never talked. I have no idea what he thought. Slight asterisk next to Cold Zero. He definitely didn't fuck with it. But Fallen, eventually Taco, and Zeus actually all used to get like... It's part of the fucking show. They just got it. Like, Fallen never, ever been mad at me. If you think of something I've ever said. Even joke, like, what he said about us on the desk earlier, and I was like, it's just trash. You'll never be a fucking good IGL again. So, well, we'll see you at the next tournament. I was like, yeah, listen, you want a beer? I'll get you one. Yeah, we're all just chilling. It was great. And then the other one is, it's not just me. I'm joking about that. But the point is, in the modern day, if the players won't do it, that does work. By the way, Maui, that's why intentionally, we've never spoken about it privately. That's not, I know people might think we have, but I think JL gets it. I told you, it was through Donna that I sort of got that he gets it. Because if you notice, he never does go too far so far. He's never actually crossed those lines, which the others have. By the way, Simple was actually raging his tits off when he did those tweets to me. That was not banter at all. He was actually raging his tits off. Like, he could not handle it. That's why he went mental when I blocked him. One of the most hilarious tweets of all time, by the way. Like, actually the best player of all time raging that I blocked him on social media. I'm just a 41-year-old guy, mate. Get over it. You know what I mean? I'm looking for you, Dad, or something. Fucking hell. So what I'll say is this. What we've also lost is player rivalries. I'm with you. Like, I actually thought it's trash because think of some of these. Like, you had NIP versus Fnatic. If people don't know, that is the secret Cold War that happened in Counter-Strike. They couldn't say it because they're Swedish. There's a reason no players were going between those teams in their prime. They're both Swedish and no one's ever recruiting the other guy because those were like fucking... That was like one of those, when a country has a civil war, like we weren't allowed to go to the other team. That was Real Madrid, Barcelona, mate. Then you've got, how about one of my favourite low-key ones, because it only came out one time in a tweet, Cold Zero versus Device. Woo! Oh, yeah, listen, Cold Zero was cool when he was on top, mate. When suddenly Astralis was on top, there's a reason he did that tweet. He was like, what's going on here? So I thought that was... And by the way, don't worry, Astralis wanted to beat those motherfuckers every single time, of course, because he used to lose to them. Then how about this one? The last one I'll mention this is a really old school one. The Swedes versus the French was a real thing. Whatever the top Swedish team is versus the top French team, they have totally different views on how to play the game, on like fucking, like even their style. Everything in the teams was different, but what a fucking amazing clash. And I can tell you, those French players, where they hadn't beat Fnatic on LAN for like a year, they burned to beat them. When they finally got Kenny S and Apex lineup and they beat them, there's a reason why they almost like fucking went off the boil immediately. They were like, fuck, we did it! We killed the final boss! Did we complete the game? And like, well, no, just keep playing CS, don't you? You got to be in the top. Oh, shit, fucking, come on, Kashima, or whatever. That might be a joke. And then, yeah, there you go. So I put it this way, you can't have it like I'm doing with GL now. By the way, the reason I go even harder now is because he's also done his half. He went from being like a good player to he's on one of the best teams in the world. So that scenario, by the way, when I banter him, I get my banter off anyway. I think it's funny as fuck. But also, it does what you say in wrestling. It puts him over. He gets to go, all the fans who are neutral get to go on his side and go, I got you. He dunked on you. Even though half of his replies are like, no, you. And then that's like 15k likes. And then mine's like, well, the thing about JL is you could say he's like an Easter egg, and then they're like, 200 likes. But by the way, more than 0 likes in it, so that works. We all get we all eat. That's the point. We all eat. And by the way, JL, this is how I know he gets it, Maui, because one time he did something. I think it was when I first started streaming. He came in my Twitch chat and he subscribed so he could send a message, right? But it didn't come on the screen because he doesn't know I don't have the overlay. I'm smarter than that motherfucker. I'm not letting people just come in, pay money and put things on the screen while I'm there. Like, that ain't happening. So what he said in the message was something like, when are we doing like reflections or something? But he was just bantering, right? So I actually did DM him and I told him in DMs, look, we can do one, right? By the way, you've just won the major, you're in the number 1 team, but you don't do reflections after like 6 months. You have to wait like in like a year and a half, maybe we do one then. When you're actually like a legendary player, we'll do the reflections and we'll sort of like squash the beef. And what's funny is he went on his stream and was sort of saying like, oh, I was just joking when I said the reflection. I didn't really mean it. But by the way, he did agree we will do it one day. But here's what he said, and this is how you know he gets it. He actually said on stream for real, when I made a joke about him, he goes, oh, guys, I have to play now, and the problem is I'll need 15 minutes to come up with a reply. He actually said that on stream. As in, because he's very, he's not trying to apply for Mensa, guys. He's very aware of who he is and what his skill is, wiggling his mouse hand and going, shoo, and stuff like that. And then having a big head. He understands his strengths and he plays to them like a motherfucker. So all I'm going to say is, I think that's a good rivalry, but I agree. I wish there was more. I actually hate it when they even do the same thing as sports. They're all fucking mates, and they're like, "Oh, I love you."
I know.
Like, I'll tell you one that I hate. You referenced it earlier.
I mean, come on,
Zeus, this is the worst one of all time. You referenced it earlier. Listen, I know you're trying to be professionals, but how dare Elysian and Twistzz 1,000 times do that tweet to each other? Love you, bro. Hope you get on the tournament. Loved when we were in Liquid. You should be fucking enemies. That would be the most straight fire. You are enemies. That would be the most straight fire. If the whole thing was like, listen, Elise, the Team Liquid used to be your house. Now it's my house. I'm the daddy now. And then you're out there like, well, I don't need it, bitch. I'm in your FaZe clan. Remember what it was like to be winning tournaments? Now I'm winning them. Let me watch me win a major. That would ignite fucking Counter-Strike. And everyone would fucking would eat the drama. I'd live off that drama. It'd be sick.
I think like the Zews quote that just came out today. I didn't hear the whole interview or whatever, but the quote that was like front page Reddit is Zews saying about his past rivalry with Simple. I wouldn't say I miss it, but I think the scene does.
Yeah.
He brought so much to the game for me though. Nothing has changed. It's like, oh, just give us anything, like anything at all, please.
Dude, that's my thing with Zero. Dude, of course he's amazing, but like he lacks that flair, that something.
Cultural impact. Cultural impact.
The cultural impact.
Dude, I want to see him do the Romario. Be like, yo, if I get a 30 bomb, can I just go to McDonald's in the break? Be like, fuck yeah, he gets you a 30 kill, comes back with like a cheeseburger or something. Like that would be baller as fuck, you know? Like do something, pull the pressure. He kind of accepted. It's great. Like I say this, but like the biggest rivals I had was like in Astralis, that device, right? He didn't get all the credit. Like one of the most unfair things in the world. He didn't get number 1 in the world when both majors, all the like grands, all that shit. So it's like, it's great having a player like that, right? But I'm a spectator. I'm not in the team. So I'd want to see more, but Apex, on the other hand, deserves something that he.
He's carrying it. Him and carrying it. Right? Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Yeah, He's been doing himself.
By the way, I don't know if anyone saw, but like Maui's like spoken into existence, that cultural impact thing, which he meant half jokingly, but it's gotten even worse because, bro, literally, first of all, Maui, it's so bad now that when people keep saying, oh, there hasn't even been any players worth graffiti, it's like, see who did do that insane G2 1v4 on Nuke at the fucking major he won? Like, that was pretty cracked, but even you don't remember it as a Zewu fan. Like, bro, I remember that. I'm supposed to be the hater. And then also, as if to make it like, you just can't win the cultural impact Zewu. You know, you saw it, Maui, where they did that image from Liquipedia, like the most viewed pages. And the joke was, Simple doesn't even play CS, and he was like 5th most viewed or something insane like that. Like, it's bonkers. Meanwhile, Zewu was like so far down, it's actually mental considering he's like one of the most cracked out players to ever touch this game. It was wild, that start. I thought they were Simple doesn't even play, and he has twice as many. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make. I don't even know why that makes sense. By the way, it is because everyone's just going, is he on a team yet? Is he on a team yet? Is he on a team yet? Like, it's just what they're doing, I guess. So yeah, fair enough.
I mean, like Zywu was 10th and Stewie was 5th for most viewed last year pages. Yeah. It's just like, it's crazy.
Stewie's goated. Come on.
Also, if you ever do want, if you ever do want a laugh, or you know, you're pre-drinking or something, just go to the Twitter advanced search, put in Thorin as the account, just put in the word JL, enjoy. That's about like 100 stand-up comedian level one-liners, like question answer style jokes. There's so many that go back and forth. Straight fire. Yeah. Like I had this one recently where, you know, you had this whole thing, he had unfortunately left part of his tooth in the fucking thing. So he had to wear a mask because he wants to see like a big hole. And I said, the worst thing is he put the tooth under his pillow and when he woke up, there wasn't even any money there. Listen, bro. I just do this naturally. This is like some side shit, you know. I'm a nerd on Wikipedia myself. I'm just reading all the fucking pages. The joke of that, Maui, is the real reason Zewu doesn't have all those simple page views are me. That's just me refreshing his results every day to go back down the top. Good, Simple's back. Daddy's home. Yeah, that's right. Oh, we're in the era now. It's never going to end. Anyway, let's go to the last point. It's been a long show. Go on.
Yeah. So mine's pretty straightforward about the scene and just kind of. I was looking at the numbers in general because people are complaining about VRS and the points that people can't move or get up and down. So I just checked, in preparation for this podcast, after the finals of the Shanghai Major played out till today, which is 1.5 months roughly, how many people moved in and out of the top. This seems like an arbitrary number, but it makes sense. It's just like of the top 22 teams that were there, which is kind of like the invites that you're going to see and people that are even going to get to the major roughly. Only one team has moved in the top 22, like into it, and only one team has moved out of it.
Okay.
The ranked 23rd Sangal Corps has moved, like at the end of the Shanghai Major, they were ranked 23rd. They are now in the top 22 under the Heroic banner. And then Saw, who obviously changed up their roster pretty drastically and haven't done anything since then, have moved out of it. Like, in a month and a half, the rankings that determine who is getting invited to or not invited to every Tier 1 tournament, there has been practically one team that has moved in or out. Like, that's, to me, with how many games have been played in different events, I feel like that is not what we're trying to accomplish with the VRS. There should be more upwards, downwards, just vertical movement for these rosters. And at present time, like you even go further and it's barely any movements. Like the teams that are moving in, like there's basically in the top, I think it's 36. There's only been, I think, 5 teams that have entered it in general, which are Atox, Nexus, Passion UA, Eclot, and Saw. So all in all, the VRS is just not leading to, like, some of these teams we're getting excited about in that they're forming, like NIP, for example. It's like they just don't have the space outside of the Tier 1 events to move up or down. Like your position in the top 30 can move up and down, sure, because you're probably getting invited to these top tournaments. You have a chance to prove yourself. You can move, like some of the teams when I was looking at them, they move like up 7 positions or down 7 positions, but still within this range of where they already were. So I just feel like there's a lot to be desired right now for VRS. But one thing that just doesn't seem to be changing quick enough is ranking. And I actually I feel like we've actually kind of come around to this over the course of a few years of running this podcast, because like in 2021 when Thorin and I started Snake and Banter, I feel like we were complaining a lot about like HLTV top 20, the HLTV rankings, how it feels kind of wonky, like people are in positions that they shouldn't be. All in all, at this point, I feel like HLTV's ranking is actually just significantly better than anything that Valve has come up with.
They killed it.
Yeah. So. It's like I
always said, you might disagree by 1 or 2, but you're never going to be 10 off like it can be on Valve, which is like, what?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's the biggest problem right now, is that you look at the Valve rankings versus the world ranking for HLTVs, and I would take, and there were points in time, again, like we've been running this podcast for like 4 years, where I was like, oh, actually, like the rankings are shit right now. But this was like 2-3 years ago, maybe. Today, I would take HLTV's ranking for all invites to tournaments 10 out of 10 times over the course of like a 6-month span over Valve's. So yeah, that's my ugly point. I just think the VRS is not actually leading to enough mobility.
What do you think, Zews?
I agree with you. I was looking into this before because I saw tweets like, oh, this team is skipping this event to maintain points for VRS. This team isn't going here. Like if this team skips, they might not have a chance. Valve mentioned that there would be growing pains. I expected, same as Maui, more shifts at least. The biggest light at the end of the tunnel that I saw this is going back to that root of CS, actually being able to make it, right? I have a few thoughts that I feel fuck this system up quite a bit. One of them is at least something like the roster lock change rules. If you change a player, you're almost building an entirely new roster, like in certain points, right? There was a point where we had Liquid, we had 2 rosters on the VRS. It's like 2 rosters. We're 7th, and we were both 6th and 7th in America. Like we'd have 2 spots. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to see more. I love the idea, at least things that I play in my mind. The fluctuating spots per region, depending on how it is, right? Like how each region is performing that semester or that season. I love that idea. Something like that should keep work. I honestly think, like, when I look at this, I think Valve honestly probably wanted to run online qualifiers through their system, but their VACnet just sucked. Because think of, like, imagine a amazing tournament where it's similar to what they do here, but, like, they bring back one stage before with the mine or something like that, but it will be through the Premier. So you have the invite for the actual teams, which are on HLTV or whatever ranking. We have AI nowadays. I'm sure we can come up with a decent ranking system. And like you have the Premier where these teams are facing online to go to the minors, and then you have like 8 teams that go against 8 teams, the bit of the shit from the HLTV list who couldn't make it, and you have 8 wildcard teams trying to break in, and that way you're actually fostering new talent into the scene and giving them an honest chance to break through to the scene, even if through the majors. But that's what will make the major special, right? Being able to actually compete worldwide, have inside the system. But their system is shit. I don't see how they can solve this right now. I honestly don't. The soft lock that we had from ESL, Louvre agreement, I'm sorry, that sucks. I don't like these formats where you're locking in exclusivity. But now when we look back, it's like, as well, with these open circuits, if we're going to be facing cheaters and all this kind of shit, it's like you're fucked both ways kind of a thing. So it's really just an ugly point. There needs to be a solution. I'd love to know more about this. I think that community feedback from the players, like Valve used to do that a lot in the beginning. They need to keep adapting. Players will need to understand that this is a business that's actually moving to a business model now, right? Like version 2.0 of what they're doing. And people love to shit on it, but compared to Riot, compared to Blizzard, compared to everything else that we're seeing, we still work fucking amazingly, right? Yeah. Even in Archaea. So it's one of those good problems to have, I guess, right? Especially for us who are sort of in the circuit. But we do need to find a better solution and give that opportunity. Valve is hell-bent on having 5 players, no coach, being able to make it through. So they have to find a solution to make 5 players be able to actually make it through somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the way, anyone who thinks like, oh, the grass is greener, in Riot Games system, it would literally be impossible in League of Legends to ever make a team and to join the LEC. Like you have to buy a spot for like 30 million euros. So is that enough is that prohibitive enough for you? 30 million euros? Give me a fucking break. That's like how much it costs to pay Yiko for a month, whatever. Anyway, listen, just rumors. Right. Also, I'll just point this out. I always tell people about grass is greener syndrome. You know what, Snappy, my old friend? I actually consider you like you're more than just an acquaintance. You're a player I'm friendly with. You were the #1 guy leading the charge that blast partner system was killing everything. Bro, how'd you like being trapped outside of the entire system? Mate, you still had like ESLs as long as you would place top 20th in the world, you were going to get the invite there. You go through the plane at a minimum. There was still ways in. By the way, there was still the showdown to get into Blast. You just had to be the best. I get there, it's hard. It's not ideal. And it obviously sucked looking over and seeing Nip or Evil Geniuses, and then they're just doing nothing with the roster and coming last place. And you're thinking, hey, give me a shot. I'd be able to do that. But I'll tell you what, this system is worse. Because the one line I want to explain to people, it's what Threat says, it's what MauisnSake says, it's what fucking Snappy himself has said now he's in an IP, is Valve said we want to create a more open system, and they've created one of the most closed systems ever, where it feels not only impossible to get into the top X, but as you said, there will quite literally, if you don't understand how crazy MauisnSake's point about the GamerLegion one is, you will actually get a tournament one day where a top-ranked team will calculate before what will happen to the points, and you might potentially just say, we forfeit the tournament. And just leave.
Yeah.
It will not make sense to play it. It might even drop you out of the major if you lose the next game. Like, if that ever happens, you've made the wrong incentive structure, bro. At a minimum, everyone should want to attend the big events, win them all, attend every normal size, attend as many events as you can. So something's gone wrong with the calculation here. Something's gone up. And whatever it is, you got to fix it. Because I know they're going, it's teething problems. That, like, the problem is the major's going to be here soon. It's going to be here before you know it, guys. We're into February now. It's not that many months before we're going to be there. And we're going to be really sad if some talents just can't ever get back. Right?
It's happening. It's
going to, yeah, of course. Like I say, I think the only reason people haven't gone mad is one, it is if you go read the GitHub, it's really complicated to figure all this shit out. That's why I leave off things like MauisnSake to do it. But the problem they have is they can't like sort of express it in as like entertaining a manner as I would. So I think here's what's going to happen. I just mentioned one example. What needs to happen is it has to actually fuck a massive team with one of the best players in the world. When that happens, everyone will wake. That'll be a splash of cold water and everyone will wake up. Right, the last point of the show. Go on.
I mean, I just can't believe that I think that the RMR system actually led to better results.
Well, it did, because you could just qualify. You could just win the games at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so many of the top teams always qualified. Like, sure, we had a couple here and there that didn't make it, but like 95% of them made it if they were really, really good.
Right. Also, by the way, I think it's really negative for the scene that now all the meta is just sign the 3-player course, and so you get people.
Yeah, I know.
Nips doing it himself. We got the Sangal people. Or the heroic one or whatever. It's like, we got the heroic, but obviously we're just going to bench one the second we don't need it for the points. Or, hey, Jax, play with us, but the second that we don't need the points, get the fuck out and say, what is that?
I know.
That's
the Jax thing is so ridiculous.
But you have to do it, because like otherwise you have no chance to get in.
You're going to pull a Liquid and go for 0 points? Fuck that noise.
No, exactly. By the way, Bleed, Falcons, and Liquid are why nobody will ever make even the best team and try and go through the open system in theory. They'll never do it, because why gamble it? Why not just already be in, get some wins on LAN, then upgrade one player? That's it. By the way, if you look at some of the teams, their plan is just to upgrade one player per season and eventually beat the line they wanted anyway, but in a year from now. Like, the last point of the show is a mad indulgent one, but I picked it as ugly. I think I've been very fair, which is, bro, there's no FaZe in the arena. The way that game was going at the end, I even said it on Twitter, think it through. That's another fucking documentary right there. That's it. That's the next documentary. We had the fucking one of ENCE versus... we had the G2 versus FaZe one in 2022. We had the one last year of Cologne between Vitality and Na'Vi. Whenever you get this map that goes to all the OTs and everyone's making plays, it can't just be that one runs up. It has to be like the heavyweight boxing match. He hits you, you hit him with the uppercut, he hits you back. Oh, fucking hell. It was insane. That match alone was god tier. And the problem with it is, the reason why I say it's ugly, it's not just bad, because one, Eternal Fire deserved to win that game. Like, what do you want to say? Like, I'm not saying they can't be in the arena. They played better than FaZe at the tournament. And the reason it's also ugly is there is one reason why they couldn't get over the line. And that is also, look, you can laugh at Broke you want. My boy at least didn't turn up. He knows it himself, by the way. You saw him on social media. He had a really bad fucking series. And he knows if he even came with a little bit extra. They win that second map. Then we're on to map 3. Who the fuck knows? Because the reason I bring this up is I think there's a lot of raw teams in the playoffs right now that I don't know how they're going to perform. They might just kind of collapse under pressure. They might just be bad in the arena. Whereas you think about FaZe, first of all, that style of play is so addictive. No one can quit being a FaZe fan. It's just too good. If you don't know, by the way, I'll tell you how pros work. Everyone who isn't actually like friends of Eternal Fire and who's a pro watching that game, in their heart is pulling for FaZe in that one. That's like every old school player is pulling for Rain and Carrigan. Everyone's just like, please, this is the best match ever. And then also, you've got the whole angle that, like, the difference is they would have provided fireworks in the arena. They would have fucking given us, by the way, Carrigan would have been, I'm not entertained. It was Maximus shit, etc. Rain would be doing some fucking bullshit to the camera. You know, they had the whole team there, mate. They were primed to give us that run, whereas instead, it looks like when you consider Flamus isn't coming, well, you know what? It's either Na'Vi Spirit or Vitality. Like, just pick which of your two. That's your final. And then it's just, and by the way, that's probably rock, paper, scissors. So let's see who wins that one. So I just think FaZe was that little bit of extra chili powder you pop in the kebab. Ooh, that's not bad. The meat's okay. The garlic's good. It's that little bit of chili, that little bit of sambal. Although maybe the sambal was eternal fire in this equation, I guess, but whatever.
Dude, it's just FaZe, again, they're fucking sick. Like, props to Kerrigan, but to Rain, to that entire roster, because they know to fight. Like, if my good point, to open the show is the skill level. Again, FaZe was battling the roster lock. Like, if we said losing Nico's hard, I know that they got Elite. I love Johnny, but Robs, dude, that's like, it's Robs. He's been there forever. It's staple piece. You know how it works, communication and all that. And you're fighting in the arena, and they're just entertaining. It's good CS. It's fun CS. It's always happening. It's always coming out. It's like, yes, I'm the same. Like, I am friends with Eternal Fire. I root for Rox because I simulate the story that Turkey goes through with the Brazil mentality of, like, them trying to build a different region, shit like that. But at the same time, when you look at FaZe and how they're going, and I remember Baroki round, and he celebrated. Like, it's funny how when we watch so much CS, you can just tell that new crown where he hits, like, the 1v3 with the flick, like, quick scopes a pre-fire in Huts. And yeah, he just knows it's over. Like, you know, he's in flow state right now, and he's gonna start hitting. And after that, he keeps going and he's yelling. And here I am, like, I'm in bed watching because it's like 9:30 a.m. here in Brazil, and, like, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm yelling. I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck is that round? That is amazing. So it is a sad point not to see them there. Like, and to my point, I do think that GamerLegion is gonna crumble in that sense. Like, if whoever makes, we do have teams. The beauty of FaZe is that right now they aren't going to be a structure. They did get Elige, but it's going to take time, right? One, for Elige to fit in. I do believe that Johnny is a guy who, different than I was the only guy who was actually able to kick Elige from Liquid at one point. This is one of those secret stories, and this was well intentioned, right? It was one of those things. Like, he wasn't doing well. He was arguing shit like that, and we kicked him for a month. And I tried to get everybody, and we couldn't. And he came back, and it was better for him. And he was doing that because Elige was like, I am going to be the comp player. I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to play this way, and I'm good at this. And when someone does it wrong, like, he'd be pissed and shit like that. But I think he's evolved, and this would be one of those few instances where I'm like, if anyone's seen that show Ted, like, from the Apple thing, it's kind of like the same thing. It's like, Jamie, you have to be an asshole. You're an asshole. Go to your positions and do your thing. You know, like, that's you. That's what I want to see Johnny there. So I have faith in him. He's smart. He's one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. He's great. So I think they're going to get there. But even FaZe, like, if they were to make it an arena, they'd at least be able to do that show from the experience, not from the tactical CS. But it's a different game. So I'm going to miss it. But it's FaZe. I just know that somehow or some way through this year, we're going to see a lot of this shit. There's always going to be something going on to entertain us.
Yeah, I mean, they're a work in progress right now. It's a shame that they didn't hit the ground running as fast as we wanted for entertainment's sake. But, like, this lineup, if they figure out, maybe, like,
they also could have beat Vitality too. By the way, that was a winnable match too. They almost beat Vitality.
Yeah, like they definitely are showing that in stretches they can be a world-class team, but I guess putting it together for a whole series against other elite competition right now it's something that I feel like is going to come, and that's what I think Austin has a great chance to show us a lot of great CS. The Austin Major, because I think that's about as long as I want for some of these rosters before it's like, okay, you should really understand each other now and probably work through the problems that are hitting you at the beginning of these new iterations.